Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Media Boat Podcast, your source for news about television, movies, video games, and music, not necessarily in that order. Getting started, feeling good about this week. We're doing it. Today is June the 16th, 2021. I hope it started recording when I pressed, before I pressed continue on that box, or else we're cut off until I did. So we'll see. So if you missed that first part, just in case, this is the Media Boat Podcast. We're talking about the media here. Today is June 16th, 2021. This is our post E3 video games blowout, plus everything else we usually talk about. My name is Matt. His name is Mike.
I'm Mike. He's Matt. It is Palindrome Day, aka 616,
Oh,
aka Marvel Universe Day, because it's the 616 universe.
I see.
Yes, but
This is the first I'm hearing about this.
well, it's the first day we're celebrating it.
Now I know.
Yep, and now we know. So, like Matt said, we're not starting with movies. We're starting a reverse show because video games had a big blowout this week. And that's putting it
so
lightly.
for those of you who are not initiated in the world of video games, you might not know that June is traditionally the time where E3, the Electronic Entertainment Expo, traditionally happens. It's a trade show for the video game industry. It's an opportunity for developers and publishers to show what they've been working on, get both retailers and consumers excited about new product launches, new announcements, new things in their favorite series, and to show trailers and gameplay of what's to come. This is when your big announcements typically happen. Kind of got thrown out of whack the last couple of years thanks to COVID. Last year, they started basically saying it's like, well, there's not going to be E3, but basically the developers are going to decide. They're going to just show their streams willy-nilly wherever they were, whatever they want, based on their schedule, because there's not a whole lot to talk about. You also saw Jeff Keighley do something called Summer Games Fest, which also returns this year, where it's kind of a united front, combining a lot of those events into one schedule on one stream that you can watch on Twitch or YouTube. So flash forward to this year, E3 as an organization has decided to do E3 again, but still in this digital format. So they've done pretty much the same thing as the Summer Games Fest, except now they're happening parallel to each other. So what we had was about a week and a half of constant stream of announcements. Obviously, we don't have the bandwidth to cover literally everything that happened. So what we did was we kind of gave you bullet points. We're going to give you bullet points of the major shows that happened. And we basically divided it by the major companies that did the announcements. We'll start with the opening thing that Jeff Keighley did with Summer Games Fest, where they announced all sorts of different third-party platform releases. We'll move into Ubisoft's show, which was next, Microsoft/Bethesda's, which was after that, Square Enix's, and then finally wrapping up with Tuesday's Nintendo. And man, we're going to end on a high note, let me tell you, with that one. I'll let you take over from the top here, because before we have that, we have our regular video game stuff to talk about real quick.
Yeah, so we have a lot to talk about, not just with video games, but in general. So, reverse show, if you stick around, well, if you stick around for all of our podcasts, you'll know that we do video games usually at the end. If you don't, surprise, we do always talk about video games. So this is not something like out of the blue here. No. Second, if you stick around until the end, I promise we'll end on a high note.
That too.
I promise you, we'll hit on a high note at the end of this podcast. Yes, like literally. So, as we do, we start reverse shows by plugging yourself. And yes, you can watch us on YouTube if you're listening to the audio version of this. Just search Media Boat Podcast. You can find us on Twitch, Media Boat Podcast, Media Boat on Twitch, Facebook, Twitter, Media Boat Cast, Media Boat Podcast. Just Google it and we will pop up. With that out of the way, let's get into some Summer Games Fest, because, some good stuff probably got announced. Depending if it's to your liking. And we start with something that we like here, Borderlands, with Tiny Tina's Wonderlands announced. which is a fantasy spin-off of Borderlands in the RPG world, which was introduced in Borderlands 2 DLC, Tiny Tina's Adventure.
Yeah. I don't remember the exact title of that thing, but more or less it was like Tiny Tina, the character from Borderlands 2, is running an RPG campaign for a lot of the main characters.
Mm-hmm.
And so it created this kind of Dungeons and Dragons-esque universe that's kind of like parallel to the universe of Borderlands. And so from what it seems, this takes this new game completely separate from the Borderlands universe, takes place completely in this alternate universe, though Tiny Tina is the one that's kind of shared in both. And yeah, big celebrity voice cast on this one, including Will Arnett and Andy Samberg. They're really swinging for the fences. And the fact that you can finally, for the first time in a Borderlands game, truly create a character is actually pretty cool.
Right, because you've been one of the 4 default characters, or 5, depending on when you're adding or when you're playing. But yeah, super fun, super excited for this one. I like that Tiny Tina DLC. I like the Borderlands as a franchise. So
yeah,
here's the pandering right to me. Please buy it.
Yeah, I really sincerely hope, though, as somebody who is maybe a little disappointed in Borderlands 3, as we talked about on this show back when that was released, I hope they try some different things here with the structure of the game. I hope that the fantasy setting allows them to play around with more things to do moment to moment, so that way it doesn't feel like just another Borderlands game with an alternate mode of attacking. But we'll see.
Yep. Next up, we have Metal Slug Tactics. Oh yeah, by the way, that game coming early 2022, so sooner than you realize. Yeah. By early 2022, probably pushed back to summer 2022. We also have Metal Slug Tactics, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's Metal Slug, but turn-by-turn base tactics.
Yeah, Metal Slug being the classic SNK arcade / Neo Geo series. Traditionally a side-scrolling shooter. So this is a tactics take on that. It looks like it's using the same kind of visual style and characters from the original Metal Slug games.
Yep. So if you got your fill with the Metal Slug anthology that came out 2 years ago, yeah. Or I'm not sure who this is, but hey, more Metal Slug because IP.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, why not?
Yep. Speaking of more stuff of the same stuff you like, Death Stranding, director's cut coming to the PS5.
Hey, hold on. You said stuff I like, but then you said Death Stranding. I'm not following.
But I said director's cut.
Yeah.
And everyone knows director's cut is way better than the original. Just ask Blade Runner and Justice League.
This is another kind of self-descriptive one. Basically, PS5 release of Death Stranding, which will have more content. Exactly what more content means, it seems like we'll know in a month or so. They said that more information was on its way in some sort of other mode. So yeah, we'll see soon.
I don't believe Death Stranding ever got DLC, so maybe that's what it means, just expanded stuff. Or more missions. Who knows? PS5 is very powerful. We also have Jurassic World Evolution 2 announced for, hey, later this year, holiday release.
Yeah. They had Jeff Goldblum himself introduce this one on the show. Although it definitely seemed like it was going to be a much bigger deal than the sequel to Jurassic Park Evolution when he originally started talking. But hey, that game was, had middling success in 2018. I know some people really enjoyed it. So if you liked that, here's more.
Yep. We also have an indie open world game, Sable, coming September 23rd. Sable, that Japanese breakfast song.
Okay, hold on. Let me explain. Because you didn't read the whole thing.
Well, yeah, wasn't that song pretty? Oh, wait, did they perform?
So, I talked about the new record from Japanese Breakfast last week. Well, guess what? Michelle Zauner of Japanese Breakfast is also doing the score of the video game Sable, which is what I'm referring to here. They showed a new trailer of it, new footage. It's an open world kind of exploration game with like a really cool like art style. And she, for the Summer Games Fest, performed a song, one of the songs that she had written for the game. So yeah, if you missed that,
Oh,
I'm sure you
that
can
was
find
her?
an archive of this. Yes.
Oh,
Did you
that
not make
explains
that
a whole
connection?
lot now.
Hold on. Were you watching this with the sound off?
Yes.
That explains it. Okay. Because they definitely said Japanese breakfast. That's very funny to me that you did not make the connection.
No, I
See,
typically watch this stuff with the sound off, so look at the visuals.
yeah. So I knew this was going to happen when I talked about her record last week, but it slipped my mind to mention it. I should have probably mentioned it and been like, oh, also, she has a connection to video games. So yeah, just one of those weird coincidences here on the Media Boat podcast. But yes.
Hey, it's crossover.
Yeah.
Speaking of things being crossed over, Lost Ark, a MMO published in the US by Amazon Games, will be coming this fall.
Yeah, this is a MMO that's been around, I think, in China for a while, getting its US release via Amazon Games. Hey, everybody, Amazon Games is finally putting out a game.
It finally happened.
They did it.
They did it.
And you know when you if
and
you
it's
watch
not that
the
Lord of the
stream
Rings
because yeah. And they made sure you knew if you were watching the stream because the whole thing was sponsored by Amazon and it was just constant Amazon advertising. It's like, come on, Jeff, we get it.
Just plastered over. Hey, we all know Jeff Bezos is on his way out this summer. So
it was that Jeff connection between him and Jeff Keighley. So
when they meet after party, hey, you're Jeff? You're Jeff? Jeff.
Like, have you seen that
Jeopardy?
YouTube clip that's Jeopardy?
Jeopardy.
Jeff. Anyway.
In more typical news, Call of Duty, Black Ops, Cold War, and Warzone will be getting a season 4 coming, tomorrow.
Yeah, this is not breaking really news. This is not exciting news, but because they release new seasons every few months. But hey, it was announced.
Yep. Speaking of things happening with Warzone and mobile, Among Us is everywhere. And hey, if you don't like to play Among Us by just going around and killing people, there's a way to do that playing hide and seek. You just have to make sure you tell everyone that you're playing hide and seek before that. Because otherwise, people will report bodies and be like, hey, we're not playing normally. We're playing hide and seek.
I'm assuming nobody dies, though. So.
Well, the way it's done is that the imposter has very limited view, but everyone else has expanded view. So the imposter is trying to run around, trying to kill everyone, hide and seek style, while everyone else is trying to stay away.
So wait, so it's not hide and seek, then it's sardines.
Yes, it's tag.
Okay. Yeah, that makes more sense.
Well, if you're tired of trying to tell people that's what you're playing, and so for people to stop reporting bodies, guess what? Among Us has heard your pleas, and they will be indeed having a new hide and seek mode added with the eventual 5th map. Wait, didn't we already do 5 maps? 2, 3, 4. No, that was 4. Airship was the 4th map.
This is basically saying that they hinted at a 5th map, but they're not ready to reveal it yet.
Right.
I don't know. Ask your local Zoomer about Among Us news because we're not the source.
I mean, it's on my phone. I've played it during quarantine.
It's one step further than me. I've never downloaded Among Us.
I downloaded it because it was free.
I'm also the person who downloaded Pokemon Go for a day and uninstalled it. So I'm not really the person to ask about mobile games. Anyway.
No. But there was some cute footage of Chicory, a colorful tale, out not tomorrow, not later, but now on PS4, PS5, and PC.
This is a neat looking painting based game that seems really, really cool. It's out now. They showed some footage of this. It's only $20. I might check this out once I carve out some time. I've got a lot of games on my plate right now. I'll get to that later, but perhaps I'll check this out. Maybe with a friend of the show, Christy. It seems like something she would enjoy.
Did you play the painting game that was free on PS4 like 2 months ago? The concrete drawing one?
No, Concrete Genie?
Yeah, Concrete Genie.
I know you tried that out. I did not get a chance because I missed the window to download that one for free.
How could
It
you?
was-
You just purchased
I
it
was
in your library.
Yeah, well, you have to do it is the thing, and I
Yes.
did not do it.
Speaking of, make sure you download the new stuff from, well, not necessarily download, but purchase so that way you have access to it for the PS Plus stuff.
I've been doing it now thanks to the PlayStation 5 kind of giving me a little kick in the butt to do it.
Mhm.
So I've been doing them
You're really better
regularly
at
now. Yeah.
We also have Salt and Sacrifice, the sequel to Salt and Sanctuary, which was announced.
Yeah, no date on that one yet, but
Nope.
that exists.
We also have a new trailer for Solar Ash.
Solar Ash being the one that kind of the one they showed out in one of the last PlayStation Directs, which was kind of like real colorful, kind of sci-fi looking game with the guy running. It's by the people who did the hell is that game? Journey, I think is the Journey people.
Yes, that
Yeah.
sounds right. We also have we also had the launch trailer for Chivalry 2. And guess what? That's out now as well.
Yeah, that's also out now. That's the kind of knights and shiny armor game.
Yep.
First person knight combat.
That's not For Honor.
No. First person.
Yes, first person. We also have a new agent coming to Valorant.
Yep. They showed all like 3 seconds of a trailer to show that off.
And there's a new footage from Escape from Tarkov.
Yeah, a shooter that's been kicking around for a while. That's finally on its way to completion.
Yep. I've seen a lot of like social media buzz about Escape from Tarkov. People are playing it, so hey,
yeah,
good for that. We also what is this? 2 Point Campus. They announced 2 Point Campus was announced, which is a college campus sim from the team behind 2 Point Hospital.
Yeah,
coming next year.
So yeah, if you want to build and operate your own college campus, make it look real cool, cater to the students' needs, it's a fun kind of comedic kind of take on like a sim for college campuses. And I don't think I've ever seen one for college campuses before. I heard a lot of good things about 2 Point Hospital, including from people in this very apartment. And so, yeah, it seems like college campus version of that same kind of concept sounds really cool.
Yep. I mean, yeah, people who like Sims will definitely like this, and college campuses can get pretty crazy. Yeah, we also have Smite getting a Stranger Things crossover.
Yeah, looks like some Stranger Things characters, enemies will be in an update for Smite.
Yep, because Stranger Things has to be everywhere now. Also, new publisher Prime Matter was announced and currently working on not 1, not 2, but 12 games, including a new Painkiller.
Yeah, Painkiller being that PC shooter that was like super mega violent and kind of a throwback to old school like shooters like Doom. Hasn't seen a game in a series for a long time, so that's interesting news. As for the rest of those 12 games, I cannot tell you a single thing about them. Most of them was just, hey, here's a logo. And so not a whole lot to talk about there.
So more of a quantity than quality kind of. We also have an alien co-op shooter, the Anacrusis, which was announced.
Looks like it's on a ship, kind of alien style. You're trying to fight, like the movie, trying to fight off alien enemies from inside of your ship. This will start a theme through the rest of the segment. Co-op seems like the theme of the rest of this year. It seems like a lot of big co-op games are the new hotness. My guess is that everybody said, hey, everybody was cooped up at home. What do you want to play? You want to play on the couch with your friends or your family. And so a lot of people started co-op experiences in development, and we're seeing those come to fruition now.
Yeah, last year, a lot of people were, only way they could play with their friends was via online, via gaming. And if your game was a single player game, kind of SOL.
Yeah, and it looks like, so weirdly enough, the template for most of these games seems to be Left 4 Dead, which is a game that is over a decade old. Yep. And so it's interesting how much Left 4 Dead saw the future It was way ahead of its time, is what we're seeing at this point.
Yep, because we also have New World, which was announced with a closed beta coming this weekend on the 20th.
And honestly, I don't remember what this is.
Me neither. Kind of forgot. Rocket League will be getting yet another Fast and Furious content because it already had 1, 2, 4. I'm not sure at this point.
A lot, but this is, of course, to coincide with the release of Fast 9 in theaters soon.
I think you mean F9.
Sorry. Let me hit F9 on my key. Actually, I don't want to hit it right now because I don't know what it does to zoom. Anyway.
Yeah, we also have Blood Hunt, which is a multiplayer spin-off of Vampire the Masquerade, Bloodlines, which will come out later this year.
Yep.
And you're playing as vampires.
Vampires. Also a theme this year. Vampires. We'll get to that later.
Yeah. Next up was House of Ashes, the next Supermassive game title in their Dark Pictures anthology series, announced for later this year, October 22nd.
Yeah, remember Until Dawn?
Yeah.
You're wondering what that team has done since? Well, they've been putting out these smaller games called the Dark Pictures anthology, and this is the newest one. So if you like interactive horror stories, this is right up your alley.
Mm-hmm. We also have Tales of Arise coming on September 10th.
Japanese RPG.
Sky: Children of the Light coming to the Switch later this month on June 29th.
Yeah.
And Planet of Lana: an Off-Earth Odyssey, which is which is a story-based side scroller with nature versus machine themes coming next year.
A lot of people are saying that Project Lana, or Planet of Lana game looked very Ghibli-esque, looked very Miyazaki. Also, by the way, a little correction. So Sky Children of Light is the one by that game company, the Journey people. I messed that up with the previous game. I actually don't remember who's developing. What was that other game called? Solar Ash? I don't know. I don't remember who was the Solar Ash people. But yeah, Sky Children of Light is that game company game.
There was also a couple of Overwatch 2 character designs that were revealed because Overwatch 2 is still happening.
Yep.
Also, Dark Alliance gameplay trailer with none other than comedian Hannibal Buress and Ember Moon, because sure.
Yeah, I don't know. They needed some celebrities, so that's who they got. It looks like a top-down Dungeons and Dragons kind of tactical thing that actually comes out this week. We'll talk about that in new releases. But yeah, so that exists.
The game Paladins will be getting a Gen::Lock content based on the web series.
For a very niche audience, one, people who still are playing Paladins, and two, watch this apparently web series called Gen::Lock that I never heard of until today.
Anime.
Yeah.
There's also a new trailer for Monster Hunter Stories 2, Wings of Ruin.
Yeah.
Because never enough
Switch,
Monster Hunter.
More story-driven. Yeah, it seems like that series is a more story-driven take on Monster Hunter that is a Switch exclusive right now. So yeah, another one of those.
We also have Wave Break, a motorboat game that I guess exists, getting a Weezer theme mode called Wheezy Mode.
Yeah, so I guess this game has already been out. I had never heard of it. It seems like everybody that I saw reacting to the Weezer performance at the Summer Games Fest also had never heard of this thing. Well, apparently Weezer has a level in it. And yeah, they performed a song while they showed footage of this new mode in the background, and yeah, they were sure Weezer.
It sure did Weezer.
Sure was Weezer.
Yep, there's also new footage of Endless Dungeon, the roguelike game. We also had Giancarlo Esposito said some strange things about Far Cry 6.
Yeah, Jeff Keighley interviewed him about his playing that character, asked him some questions about like the character's morality. He seemed all for whatever this character was doing in the game, which is kind of caught me off guard. And he was like asked to compare this role to other roles he played in movies. It was entertaining if you like Giancarlo Esposito, but yeah, so that happened. Didn't really tell us a whole lot about Far Cry 6, but hey, the Ubisoft show was coming later, so.
Right. Because this was a lot of different updates for a lot of different games, including Fall Guys getting a Nier Automata content.
Yeah, if you want to dress up as 2B and Fall Guys, you can do that. I don't know who wants to do that, but you can do that.
A really weird crossover in that Venn diagram.
Yeah, I don't know who that person is, but they're happy, I'm sure.
And then there's Deviation Games, which is a new studio from ex-Treyarch devs. And they teased their unannounced project with Sony. So yay, new studio.
They didn't say what it was going to be. It seems like all signs point to first-person shooter because that's what Treyarch did for years with Call of Duty games. So yeah, not really sure what they're doing, but they did say they're partnering with Sony for some sort of PlayStation exclusive. So that's all we know.
There's also new footage from Warner's Back 4 Blood.
Yeah, the most specific of the Left 4 Dead homages. This game is basically just a re-skinned Left 4 Dead. And yeah, they showed off some new modes for that thing. There's going to be a mode where you can take control of the monsters as well as the people shooting them. So some fun player versus player and player versus environment stuff in there.
Yep. We also had new footage of a Zelda-like game called Tunic, which is also getting a demo soon.
The way they're pitching that one is you're like a little fox, like if Link was a fox in like Link to the Past. It seems cool, and yeah, like that demo is coming soon, and it's going to be free on multiple platforms. So yeah, there'll be a chance for us to check that out. Seems cool.
Yeah. We also have Tribes of Midgard, which is a co-op survival game coming next month, July 27th. So,
more co-op, but you're Vikings and you're surviving.
Yes, and Tribes of Earth. I mean Midgard.
Yes.
We also had new footage of Left 4 Dead: the game.
No, not Left 4 Dead, Evil Dead.
That's what I said. Evil Dead: the game. Because chainsaw arms.
Yeah.
And last but not least,
yes,
Elden Ring finally gets a trailer and a release date. The internet went
freaked
wild.
out about this one. Yeah, so all you people who are looking forward to a next Dark Souls game, here you go. It'll be here in January, and I guess George R.R. Martin is going to finish something for the first time. So good for him. He did it. He wrote something and submitted it, and it's being made. What do you know? So there you go. That was Summer Games Fest.
That was Summer Games Fest 1. I mean, that's the first announcement down. Because E3, E3 Lite, lots of E3s, video games galore. Because after Summer Games Fest was Ubisoft. Yes.
Yeah.
That Ubisoft. Large enough to have their own press conference.
Sure.
And it started with why. It started off with why and ended with even more whys.
Pretty much.
Because that's what all Ubisoft is. That you should just be a why at this point. It's why Ubisoft. Why? Because, all right, the first thing they announced, coming right off the bat, hot off the gates, first thing they announced, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Yes, that TMNT coming to Brawlhalla.
Yeah, Brawlhalla still exists. Because they remind us that every single E3 that Brawlhalla still exists and somebody's out there playing it.
Well, that and Just Dance.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. I mean, I'll just tell you now. Just Dance 2022. Yes.
Yeah, we'll get that one over with. It exists. One notable thing about Just Dance 2022, though, for the first time since its inception, no Wii version of that game. So that means we can finally say it. The Wii is dead.
But is there a PS2 version or PS3 version?
No. Furthest back they're going on this one is PS4 and Xbox One.
Okay.
They did it. They finally severed it. They're like, we're done.
So it's still come out for the Wii U, though, right?
No,
just
No.
Switch.
The
Ooh.
oldest, the oldest thing I like on there is PS4 at this point now.
All right. Yay. Wii is dead. Maybe. I don't know. Ubisoft also announced Rainbow Six Quarantine, which has been renamed Extraction.
I wonder why they did that.
Can't do quarantine. Bad vibes. Flashbacks.
Yeah, a little bit.
Which is Operatives versus Monsters, coming on September 16th. If you haven't seen this trailer, chances are it's been plastered all over YouTube at this point. Ubisoft ran a lot of ads this past week for this.
I made sure to note the monsters thing because I noticed a recurring theme of people being like, wait a minute, what? When they saw like monsters involved in this game, because when you think Rainbow Six, you think realism. And so, just to let everybody know, this is a more fantastical take on the Rainbow Six tactical combat where you're shooting stuff that aren't humans.
Are they not zombies? Because it definitely looks like zombies.
They're zombies, but the text I read referred to them as monsters, which makes me think that there's going to be further like extrapolations of the zombie concept. So it's not just zombies, but hey, we're back to co-op Left 4 Dead all of a sudden. It's like we can't keep returning to that concept. So,
speaking of returning to concepts,
yes,
Guitar Hero.
Well,
not that Guitar Hero, but rather Rocksmith Plus was announced, which is a subscription take on Guitar Hero-ish, where you learned to play guitar and bass.
Yeah.
And it will work with acoustic or electric instruments.
Yeah, Rocksmith, even though it was kind of roped into the plastic instrument craze along the time of Guitar Hero and Rock Band, it was never intended to be a game. It was always a learning tool. And so this is basically an evolution of that concept. But now you can just use the microphone in your phone to pick up basically any guitar you're using, whether you're using an amp or an acoustic. And so it makes it even easier to play. Prior to this, in the original Rocksmith game, you actually had to buy their learning guitar in order to play. That's no longer the case. So it's going to be a monthly subscription service. There's going to be videos and interactive things to play, and it can work on phones and tablets and PCs. So it sounds like a really cool version of the thing that they already set up for Rocksmith.
So if you were trying to learn guitar last year and failed miserably, pick up Rocksmith Plus.
Yeah, this might be the second chance.
Yep. Speaking of second chances, there's new content coming to Rainbow Six Siege because, hey, why not?
Always. That's an inevitability at this point.
Yep. Speaking of inevitability, Assassin's Creed Valhalla getting an expansion, this time to Paris.
Yeah.
And the new educational Discovery Tour.
Yeah, you see them do this Discovery Tour, I believe, since Assassin's Creed Odyssey. And basically, this is the mode where no violence, you're just walking through and seeing the sights, learning history. So it's cool. Cool if you're like a teacher who wants to like talk about the Viking settlements in England for a little bit with your kids, and you can actually walk around and show them what it looked like.
Yes, video game style.
Yeah.
Speaking of Giancarlo Esposito, that new Far Cry 6 game had a new trailer and official release date of October 7th. Also, Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon Remastered will be included in the season pass.
Yeah, if you remember way back to, I think, around like 2010, 2011, Blood Dragon was an expansion, a DLC for Far Cry 3 that took place in kind of like a weird like 80s like super wild universe that like was really weird and funny. So yeah, it was a fan favorite back then, and they're bringing it back.
You know, for all those fans out there.
I believe this coincides also with a Netflix series that also will exist in the world of Blood Dragon that they're putting out.
Now that makes sense. More sense than Mario and Rabbids, because hey, remember when we thought that was weird? Well, they made a sequel. Mario and Rabbids: Sparks of Hope, which was announced and will allow more character control in battles, which is due on Switch next year, 2022.
Yeah, I heard good things about that game. I never played it, but it was a really good early Switch game that kind of played like what if Mario and Rabbids but XCOM. It seems like they're playing around with some of the mechanics a little bit by letting free movement, like allowing free movement for the characters. But otherwise, it seems like the same kind of charming Mario meets the weird specific French weirdness of the Rabbids that people enjoyed the first time around, and now in space. So there you go.
Yep. And we end Ubisoft with another big why. And who's asking for this other than maybe James Cameron? Avatar.
Yeah.
Yes, not The Last Airbender, but that Avatar from James Cameron. Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora was announced, but no gameplay yet.
Yeah, no gameplay yet, just a CG trailer. But hey, they're making an Avatar game because of course they are. There's sequels that are coming out in the next few years, so they need to capitalize on that at some point. So why not do an Avatar game? The last time they did an Avatar game was when the first game came out, or the first movie came out. It was terrible. Hopefully this one will be better.
Well, yeah, because there's been several years since then. And by several years, I mean a decade. 2009 was Avatar.
Yeah, Christmas 09. So yeah, it's been a while.
Yep. Thank you, Stained. It's been a while. Speaking of it's been a while. Hey, remember when Microsoft bought Bethesda?
Hey, yeah, that happened.
Yeah. Well, this is their first co-press conference together.
Yeah, it's the first one that they've done together.
Mm-hmm. So, guess what they announced? Buttload of games.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. How many shooters can you fit into one press conference?
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. This is when I started thinking, maybe the C3 isn't going to be for me, because it was just shooter, realist, like all these realistic games. I'm just like, all right, this is not why I play video games, but sure, this is for somebody.
Yep. So we'll start with Starfield footage shown and confirmed to be an Xbox and PC exclusive.
Yes.
On November 11th next year, 2022.
Yeah. Starfield, in case you haven't been paying attention, is the Bethesda Softworks new open world exploration game in kind of the lineage of Fallout since 3 and the current Elder Scrolls games like Skyrim. But it takes place in space and you're planet hopping, and that's pretty much all we know so far. There's not a whole lot of details out there, but this is specifically the news about it being Xbox exclusive is really the story here, because this was the game people would always bring up when there was that discussion about after Bethesda was bought by Microsoft, would they bother to put their games multi-platform? Apparently the answer is no. So I can wave a big I was right flag now, because a lot of people are like, oh, surely they're not going to like take the risk. And I'm like, I don't know. You spend that much money on a developer, you probably want to lock them down. And here we are.
So you waved your flag on the way about we answered the phone.
Yeah.
Because you called it.
Yeah.
So yeah, but is it technically cross-platform if it's Xbox and PC?
No, because everything, even Microsoft first-party stuff, is also on PC at this point. Microsoft has made it a point to be like, there is no delineation between Xbox and PC at this point. They, I don't believe, do console exclusives anymore. I cannot tell you a single major Xbox game in a long time that has been exclusively on consoles.
Even like Halo and Gears of War?
Those are all planned for future releases, will be day on date with PC releases as well.
Okay. Well, good thing you get that all in Game Pass. And speaking of Game Pass, new footage was shown of Stalker 2, Heart of Chernobyl, coming 4/28, future next year, April 28th.
No,
and it's on Game Pass.
Wait, you're right. I guess that is next year then. Okay.
Unless you mistyped somewhere.
No, that's correct. Real quick though, I wanted to mention, if you want to play a little drinking game to this podcast, drink every time we say Game Pass for the next 5 minutes. Because we're gonna say the words Game Pass a lot. I texted you earlier. I was like, I'm getting tired of typing the words Game Pass. I type it so many times. Anyway.
See, when I saw that, I thought, wait, you mean GameFly, right? Like, oh, wait, no, that's right. Game Pass.
I mean Game Pass.
All right. So I got my drink ready here. Let's start.
Yep.
That's one. Second, Warner's, the Back 4 Blood game that we just announced, also coming to Game Pass on October 12th. Avalanche Studios Contraband, the open world co-op game, also coming to Game Pass upon release.
This Avalanche, by the way, don't get them confused with the other Avalanche that works with Disney often. This is the Avalanche that are the Just Cause people. So this is the next big game in the Just Cause team.
We also have Sea of Thieves getting a Pirates of the Caribbean crossover event called A Pirate's Life on June 22nd.
Yeah, it looks like it has a lot of the characters from the Pirates of the Caribbean universe in the world of Sea of Thieves.
Mainly the only one you care about, Jack Sparrow, because everyone else is thrown by the wayside.
Davy Jones.
Yeah. Tentacles. We also have Yakuza, Like a Dragon. Game Pass for the very first time.
Yeah, so this means that now if you really want to play every single Yakuza game, you can do that now. The newest one is also on there too.
Yep. We also had new footage from Battlefield 2042, and then everyone immediately went to pre-order it for some reason because it looked pretty good.
EA revealed that last week. We didn't talk about it because it happened in between our podcasts, but yeah, this was just more footage. 128 player mode on Xbox Series X and PS5, from what I understand. So big battlefields.
There was also 12 minutes, which is coming on the game. 12 minutes, not 12 minutes of something.
Yes,
the game is called 12 minutes, coming on August 19th. And Game Pass on day one.
That is, if you remember, they did that. I think last E3, they showed it was basically a game where it's a time loop, 12 minutes. And it was like basically a domestic dispute that goes places. Apparently, it's got Daisy Ridley in it as one of the main characters. So yeah, interesting.
We also had Psychonauts 2 coming on August 25th. Also day one on Game Pass.
Yeah, that game still looks like they just made another Psychonauts, which, you know what? Hey, somebody's out there waiting for that, so go for it.
This one takes place inside the brain, it looks like, or Daydream or something.
The first one did as well. You would hop between people's brains. So yeah, this makes sense.
Well, if you got tired of us saying and Game Pass, well, a bunch of Bethesda classics are going to come to Game Pass.
Yeah, there's already a sizable amount of Bethesda games on there, but this will add like Fallout 3, Fallout Tactics. I think it'll add some of their other more obscure games. So
yeah. Also, Fallout 76 content was announced for people who are still playing that, including a Brotherhood of Steel campaign and The Pit.
Yeah, if you're familiar with the Fallout universe, specifically 3 and 4, you know who the Brotherhood of Steel are, and you also know where The Pit is. The Pit was DLC for Fallout 3 way back in the day. So yeah, it'll be cool to revisit some familiar places.
We also have co-op party game, Party Animals, which was announced.
Yeah, do you want to play like a game like Gang Beasts, except you're animals? Well, here you go.
Maybe. Sounds fun. But what sounds more fun is Hades. Yes, that game, Hades, coming to Xbox on August 13th and Game Pass.
Yeah, so for all of you who could not or did not play MediaBoat Podcast Game of the Year of 2020, Hades, now if you're a Game Pass subscriber, you can totally do that. Play Hades. It's really, really good, is what I have to say about that.
And play it on Game Pass because it's available via Game Pass.
Yeah.
We also have Somerville, which is seemingly about alien invasions, coming next year.
Yeah, not a whole lot. They didn't show gameplay of that.
And then they decided to take a break and let everyone ogle in the thing that is supposed to come out last year, but then didn't. Their launch game, the thing you bought the Xbox Series X for, and then didn't happen.
Yeah.
That's right. I'm talking about Halo Infinite. New trailer, plus confirmation that multiplayer will be free to play.
Yes.
Key, because typically you need an Xbox Live subscription for it.
Yeah. So I think they're taking advantage by the fact that this is another day one Game Pass scenario. So a lot of people are probably going to be like, oh, well, I get the campaign with Game Pass, but I'll dabble in the multiplayer too. And this also opens it up so that way people who don't even have Game Pass can try out the multiplayer here. And this is going to be cross-play as well between the PC and the Xbox platform. So yeah, get ready to see Halo compete against your Apex Legends and your Fortnites here. This is a big play, and I think that it's the smart choice to do. As for the footage that they showed of the kind of more story campaign-centric stuff, it looks pretty good, and it looks like it furthers the story where the Halo story left off after 5. So we'll get to find out what happens with Master Chief and Cortana. It'll be interesting.
Yep. Note that it's not called Halo 6, so this could be the last one or the forever incarnate of it.
Yeah. But
constant DLC.
Yeah, the free-to-play multiplayer thing actually does finally make that name make sense. It's like, oh, Halo Infinite. I get it now. Yeah,
so. We also have A Plague Tale: Requiem for next year, 2022. Yeah.
That's a sequel to the previous A Plague Tale game. I forget what the subtitle of that one was, but rats. Hey, you like rats? This game has rats.
Speaking of rats, we can't shake the rat that is Far Cry 6, because hey, footage was shown even here as well.
Yeah, yes, everywhere. You couldn't escape it.
We also had Slime Rancher 2 announced for 2022. And it's a game one day pass.
You mean day one Game Pass?
That's what I said, a game one day pass. Shredders was also announced, which is a snowboarding game.
Yeah.
Coming in December. Because
remember snowboarding?
Yeah. It was from Steep. That snowboarding game.
Except it's not related to Steep in this case.
No, because no one's going to get injured during the photo shoot. Callback.
Yes.
We also have Atomic Heart, which is a sci-fi first-person shooter, announced, but no date.
No gameplay.
But confirmed for Xbox Game Pass.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. We also have Replaced, which is a side-scrolling game with sprite-based art coming in 2022.
Looked pretty neat, but beyond that, I don't know if it's something I want to play, but hey, that's a look.
Obsidian's game Grounded.
Yeah.
We'll get a big update soon.
So yeah, that's been in early access on Game Pass for a while. That's the big bug game where you're shrunk in like a garden.
The backyard, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids game.
So yeah, more content coming to that.
Also more content coming to Among Us. Today, out now.
I included this because I wasn't sure if this is the same news as that what they talked about in the Summer Games Fest stuff, or whether it was different. Again, ask your local Zoomer; they will be able to tell you.
I think that this is actually like Xbox getting the new map that they just released. We also have Aiden Chronicle, which is a spiritual successor to Suikoden, coming to Xbox in 2023.
Yeah.
Along with an action spinoff, Aiden Chronicles Rising in 2022.
Yeah. I don't know. Suikoden, there was a lot of Suikoden games. A lot of people like those. So, hey, somebody else was like, hey, let's make a Suikoden. And so it's cool that they're working on it.
We also have The Ascent, which is an overhead co-op action game coming on July 29th.
Yep. I think they had announced that before as well.
They definitely did. Also, Age of Empires 4 coming to the PC on October 28th with a day one PC Game Pass release.
Yeah. The newest, see, they've been spending so much time re-releasing the old Age of Empires. It's about time they do a new one, and here we are.
We also have the Outer Worlds 2, which was announced, which is by not Obsidian.
That is Obsidian.
That is
That's also
Obsidian.
Obsidian, yes.
Yeah. So Outer Worlds 2 is coming.
Yeah.
Maybe you can beat this one in 18 minutes again.
Maybe. Yeah, this is of course they showed just a trailer for it, but this is interesting because this does suggest that this will be a Xbox and PC exclusive, unlike Outer Worlds 1 that had a PlayStation release.
Right, but that was also part of the deal they had before they got purchased.
So no. Yes and no.
It was announced before they got purchased,
yeah,
but then they
I
got purchased
you're
like
right.
2 months later.
Yeah, it released after the Obsidian deal finalized, but it was a 2K published game,
right?
The first round. But yeah, it sounds like Microsoft's going to take over publishing duties for this one.
Yep. They'll also take over publishing duties for Microsoft Flight Simulator, which is finally confirmed for consoles.
Yeah.
Which is also coming to Game Pass.
I mean, I feel like I don't need to note this, but just in case you're wondering, only Xbox Series X and S, no Xbox One release for this thing. I think that if you tried to run Flight Simulator on an Xbox One, it would explode. So yeah, just keep that in mind.
The next game in the Forza Horizon series, which is Forza Horizon 5, was announced coming in November 9th.
Yeah.
And lastly, if you didn't get enough vampires, Redfall, which is from Arcane Austin, was revealed. And it seems like a comedic co-op shooter with vampires coming summer 2022.
Yeah, weird choice in my opinion to do this last. Maybe they were very confident in the trailer and thought people would be like, yeah, that seems like fun. Not a whole lot of gameplay was shown here, but we got the idea, the gist of what this game is going to be. Yeah, but it's going to be a while. Summer 2022 for that one, so a whole another year. But yeah, interesting concept. And hey, co-op shooters, they're back.
So if you're looking for Game Pass and you have to have Game Pass, there were 13 games announced specifically for Game Pass.
Yeah, in fact, more than that too at the actual show. We may be missing some because I believe at the beginning they said that they were going to show 30 games total, and 27 of which were going to be on Game Pass. So goes to show you that they're really all in on that program.
So yeah, 13 were officially announced, but yeah, most likely more will be coming to Game Pass. So if you're able to get your hands on an Xbox Series X or S, you might as well just buy Game Pass alone and it will pay for itself. Or rather, it won't because subscription.
Yeah.
So just keep pumping money to Microsoft on that. Or don't, because there are other game companies out there like Square Enix who also had their own announcements.
Yes, thankfully it was much, much shorter.
Yes, and thankfully it was much more centric, meaning it was all Marvel, except for a couple other
more or
stuff.
less.
Or Final Fantasy.
Marvel and Final Fantasy.
Yeah. So if you're looking for anything else, sorry. But Square Enix did start off kind of strong, I guess, depending, with a Guardians of the Galaxy game, which was announced, where you play as Star-Lord, and it's coming October 26th.
Yeah. I don't know. As the more Marvel expert here than I am, what did you think about this?
One, you can only play as Star-Lord, even though Guardians of the Galaxy is a team-based game or a team-based
entity
series.
Yeah, they're a team. They're a team. You would think that they would want to stick together.
Yeah, but no, it's going to be a narrative-driven as Star-Lord. So, hey, could be fun. But if it's anything like Marvel's Avengers, who knows? Because, well, I mean, we'll get there here. Actually, we'll just get here now. There was content updated for that Avengers game, which will be free, and it will include the Black Panther update. So that Black Panther update is separate, going to be a separate game completely from the Guardians of the Galaxy, even though they may or may not actually take place in the same universe. So weird.
Yeah.
But there's also Final Fantasy games announced, including Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster, which is a mobile collection of Final Fantasy 1 through 6. There's also Legends of Mana Remaster coming to the Switch, the PS4, and the PC later this week on the 24th. Or this week? Next week, 24th.
Yeah, next week.
There's also a mobile spin-off coming for Nier, Hitman, and the Final Fantasy series, including a Final Fantasy VII mobile spin-off game called The First Soldier. Detailing the chronicles of the first soldier, I believe would be Sephiroth.
That sounds right.
That sounds right.
You would know. You've recently finished Final Fantasy VII Remake, so
yes, which is only chapter episode 1 of the 3 episodes.
Right.
There's also Babylon's Fall, which is now a multiplayer game, and a new trailer for Life is Strange: True Colors.
Yeah,
and it still looks good.
Still looks good.
And lastly, they announced Final Fantasy Origin, which is a take on Final Fantasy from Team Ninja.
This got leaked a couple days before the show. Did we talk about it? I don't remember if we talked about it.
We didn't talk about it.
But yeah, and it all ended up being confirmed. This is a action RPG take in the world, or in a Final Fantasy style world. So it's connected to Final Fantasy, but isn't necessarily using any universe that already exists. And the internet was clowning on the trailer because I guess they said the word chaos a lot in this trailer.
Yep. Chaos.
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 Chaos. So yeah, I mean, Team Ninja usually makes fun, active combat in their games, so I could see this being a lot of fun to play. As for whether or not it will be the crossover thing that they want to expand Final Fantasy as a brand, remains to be seen. We'll see how the game does when it comes out. Oh, demo for that also is coming soon.
We'll see. Overall, kind of a weak show for Square Enix because
they didn't have much.
Didn't have a whole lot.
But
and then we're done.
No.
Oh wait, no.
Oh sorry. No. We're far from done because, as they say, the best is yet to come.
Oh gosh. Yesterday, I was gonna say thank God this was done yesterday because if we had to wait a whole week to talk about all this stuff,
yes,
I might have gone insane. Because Nintendo did their Treehouse event, and
they sure did.
Oh boy, did they sure basically put everyone to shame. I think Sony is still to come tomorrow for us. So we'll have
Sony didn't necessarily say that they were part of either of these things, so that kind of gave them license to do their own thing whenever the hell they wanted. And I don't think that they've, to my knowledge, I don't think they've announced a proper show because they don't have to.
No, they have yet to announce an official state of play for the month.
Right.
Or whatever it is they're going to call it. So
yeah, we'll see. They'll I'm sure when they have stuff to talk about, they will talk about it, but they're in complete control of their own message at this point.
Yep, and Sony typically likes to go last. Well,
no,
partially.
Nintendo traditionally
goes last, but Nintendo is also traditionally a pre-recorded Treehouse thing.
And sure enough, that's what it was this year as well.
Yep, and sure enough, the internet went crazy yet again, as they right off the bat, new person coming to Smash, because do we have enough characters in Smash yet? So, new character, new fighter will be none other than Tekken's Kazuya, which is actually Kazuya Kazama.
Yeah.
Official name.
Yeah.
Father of Jin Kazama and Hayachi Kazama, or son of Hayachi Kazama. He's the dad, and Hayachi's the grandpa, and Jin's the son. And the whole universe revolves around that family.
I like how you're like, I had forgotten that you had gotten into Tekken lore. And so this shouldn't surprise me, but I was like, oh yeah, now it's coming back to me. I remember when you were like, I've been playing a lot of Tekken out of nowhere. This was like a year ago, I think.
I've played a lot of Tekken in my past, and yeah, there's a lot of lore to it.
So there you go. So yeah,
throwing people down volcanoes and
yes,
stuff.
in fact, that was my favorite part of this trailer, was the bit where he was just throwing everybody down a volcano, only to at the end throw Kirby down, and Kirby, of course, safely hops back up behind him. It was very
Kirby
cute.
floats.
Yes.
But yeah, Kazuya will be from Tekken will be coming to Smash.
Yeah, which means you can finally have well, not finally. I believe they did make that Tekken versus Street Fighter game, but you can finally have Tekken versus Street Fighter inside of
a Smash
of Smash Brothers if you want.
Tekken versus Street Fighter Pokeballs only. We also had so that's just Nintendo's opening, and then they just kept knocking it out of the park from there, because they announced that Life is Strange Remastered and Life is Strange True Colors.
Yeah, the new one.
Yep, the new one, as well as Guardians of the Galaxy,
that
game we just talked about, Worms Rumble, Astria Ascending, 2 Point Campus, that college game we talked about, Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania, Just Dance 2022, which we just talked about, Cruisin' Blast, Dragon Ball Z: Kakarot, Danganronpa, Decadenza,
Danganronpa Decadence.
Also, Fatal Frame: Maiden of Black Water, Doom Eternal DLC, The Ancient Gods, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2, and Strange Brigade. All those games, that's just me listing games one after another, are coming to the Switch.
Yeah, I grouped them all together like that because they didn't say a whole lot besides that about a lot of these. A couple of notes about those, though, just real quick. Cruisin' Blast, of course, in the Cruisin' series of racing games, like Cruisin' USA and Cruisin' World from back in the day. Danganronpa Decadence is a collection of the previous Danganronpa games in a remastered collection for the Switch. What else here? Monkey Ball Banana Mania is their new Monkey Ball game that's supposed to be part of their 25th anniversary or 20th anniversary? 20th anniversary 20th. Of the Super Monkey Ball franchise. So yeah, just a few notes, but otherwise, yeah, some solid games all coming out very, very soon for your Switch. So more than enough to play.
That was just 15 games coming out to the Switch, and that's what they opened with. And then there was more.
Yes.
Including new footage shown of Mario Golf Super Rush, which I believe is coming next week.
Next week, I believe, yeah.
Next week. Monster Hunter Stories 2, Wings of Ruin, Shin Megami Tensei 5, and that Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope was also shown. All new footage.
Yeah, and they confirmed that Mario Golf is going to have that adventure mode that everybody was hoping it would, where you can even play as your Mii if you want. So that game just seems cooler and cooler if you're a golf fan. I'm sure you guys are going to have so much fun with that thing.
Yep, it's the next game we're looking forward to on playing on the Switch.
Yeah.
Now that since we beat Pokemon Snap.
Yeah.
We also had Mario Party Superstars, which was announced, which is a kind of a Mario Party Greatest Hits collection, coming October 29th.
Yeah, it's going to have boards and mini games from the original 3 Nintendo 64 Mario parties. So this is a nostalgia grab. This is basically like, hey, did you grow up playing Mario Party when you were a kid? Well, here you go. Here's all your favorite games back, which is cool. This will have online mode from the beginning as opposed to Super Mario Party, which added it just last month. So yeah, it seems like it's going to take the structure of Super Mario Party and just put all the old stuff in it. A great idea, I think, because they know that their audience is a lot of people who either have nostalgia for those original games or have never played them before, and thus this is a whole new group of mini games and boards that they've never seen before. So equally exciting.
Yes, if you like to see chaos incarnate, play Super Mario Party game.
It's vintage Mario Party, the kind that I grew up playing. It's just I'm gonna play it, immediately taste pizza, and think about sleepovers.
So this is your dad's Mario Party.
I'm not anyone's father. Come on.
Not yet.
Anyway.
Also, another game that kind of broke the internet, Metroid Dread was announced, which is a real 2D side-scrolling mainline Metroid game following the events of Metroid Fusion coming on October 8th.
If I could have recorded my reaction to this, it would have been like YouTube status, like gamer reacts to Nintendo E3, because keep in mind that it has been nearly 20 years since Metroid Fusion has came out. It came out on the Game Boy Advance 19 years ago. And since then, there's only been teases about like, are they going to make another 2D Metroid? Are they going to make another side-scrolling Metroid? Like, they focused so much on Metroid Prime as a series after that. And then the spin-off like stuff like the Hunters games, that everybody was like, okay, I guess they're just never going to do it again. There was never a DS game. There was a rumored DS game for a while called Dread that was canceled because they said that they couldn't figure out how to do the concept that they wanted. So for years, this has been the thing that in the back of my mind, I'm like, man, they should really make another Metroid. They should really make another Metroid like those old Metroids, because those old Metroids are probably some of the best games ever made, in my opinion. So yeah, this thing flipped my lid. I have literally never been this excited about a reveal of any video game at any press conference I can remember.
It's finally happening.
Yeah, it finally happened.
This is your Kingdom Hearts 3. It's finally happening.
Exactly. This is my Kingdom Hearts 3.
Even though you've waited longer than I have for that game.
Yeah. Or maybe a more modern version. I pretty much reacted probably how everybody else reacted to Elden Ring. This is a big deal. It looks great. So I watched a bit of the Treehouse show after to see the gameplay. They even had an actual interview, like a really surprisingly lengthy interview with the creative director on the Metroid series, who's been with the series since it started. He's involved, which means that this is quality. And it just, they played about 20 minutes of it, and it just looks fantastic. Looks like there's a little bit of Metroid Fusion's kind of chase mechanic with these robots that are like prowling after you. So there's that tense kind of like hide and seek element to it. They're incorporating some of the more modern moves that Samus had in the Metroid Returns game for the 3DS. So those cool like counters where you can kind of run and counter and then shoot. But it also looks like very faithful to the original series. A lot of exploration. Oh, one of the things that got me the most was they showed the map screen. Traditionally, part of the Metroid experience is exploring everything so that when you fill out the map when you go to like the map station gives you an idea of where things are, but you only fill it out truly until when you get there. So a lot of it is like, oh, okay, I'm going to try going down here because I think the map is saying that there's a path down here. Well, they've doubled down on that. Now it just gives you kind of this amorphous block around the areas instead of telling you exactly what the corridors are going to look like. So you don't even know the shape of the corridors. You just know the vague area that if I go vaguely this way, if I go left, I'm not going to hit a wall. I'm going to hit something, but I don't know what I'm going to hit. And that just it makes it even more like mysterious, and it's going to make the exploration even more fun. And man, I am so looking for, and the fact that this thing comes out in like as early as October, I can't believe they did it, is all I can say. This was my moment, like one of the most exciting moments I think I have had in a long, long time related to video games. So very excited to play this.
So can we call it as your game of the year already?
I'll have to play it first. We'll see. I'm not gonna hedge my bets.
Okay, well, so that's a game that hasn't, from a series that hasn't come out in a long time.
Yeah.
Oh, but they weren't done yet.
No,
because they also came out with WarioWare Get It Together was announced, which is a co-op Switch WarioWare game coming September 10th.
Yes. So my other long-awaited Nintendo sequel. So when they put out WarioWare Gold a couple years ago on 3DS, I talked about it here on the podcast about how it was a nice collection of the previous games for people who hadn't played them before, all collected in one game for the 3DS. But a new one is even better than a collection. And I'm very excited that they're bringing back all the characters. And co-op is certainly really cool. I'm glad that I'm going to be able to play these with another person. And it's a different kind of mini game this time. It looks like you're controlling a character that you choose and you're moving around and letting that character do different things within the world of the mini game. So the interaction isn't just everybody's doing the same button press or movement like it was in the previous games. It's more about you are a character who has a skill set. You have to figure out how to use your skill set to solve the mini game puzzle before the timer goes off. So it's an interesting take. And co-op implies that some of them are going to require teamwork to complete. And so, yeah, it's a really, really neat concept. I love WarioWare. I love the vibe of WarioWare, and I'm really excited to play this.
Doctor is a fan of WarioWare, so we might pick this up.
Yeah. Play a lot of this.
We also had Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp, which was announced, which is a remake of the first 2 Advanced Wars games coming December 3rd.
Yeah. They're getting a little help from the developer WayForward, most famous for the Shantae games. They're helping out rebuilding these games for the top. A lot of people are very nostalgic for the Advance Wars games. I'm not really one of them. I rented the first one from Blockbuster and it was too hard for me back in the day. But a lot of people my age loved Advance Wars, so this is going to be a big deal for them.
And then we get into the Zelda portion of the conference.
Yes, it is the 30th anniversary of Zelda, Legend of Zelda this year's, I believe. 25th, sorry. 25th anniversary of Zelda. Wait.
No, I think you're right. It is 30th.
Was it 30?
Yeah, because the first one came out.
35th.
35th.
That's the math.
Yeah, because the first one came out in the 80s, like
86,
original Zelda.
86, so yeah, 35. Sorry. Yep. Anyway.
Old. And yet, he still looks so sprightly. Emphasis on the sprite. Because games. Well, Nintendo obviously knew that this was going to be the 35th anniversary. And so kind of pulled out the stops and said, hey, you want a 35th anniversary? We'll give you 35th anniversary. So, Hyrule Warriors will get an expansion pass. Pulse of the Ancients, which was announced, coming this week, with Wave 2 coming in November. They also announced a Legend of Zelda Game & Watch replica system with Zelda 1, 2, and Link's Awakening on November 12th.
So yeah, they did that Mario anniversary Game & Watch that was for the Mario celebration that they had last year. Makes sense that they would do this for Zelda as well. Neat little handheld system that looks like the old Game & Watch system. So yeah, if you want some nostalgia, this is pretty cool.
And then they ended the show and everyone went home and lived happily ever after.
Except for one last thing, of course, as these shows love to do.
It's like, oh, but wait, I'll leave you with this teaser. Get ready for my spit take here, because the game everyone thought was coming, the game they said was coming, the game they thought was, years in the making, or like years down the line, footage was shown of Breath of the Wild 2. That's right. That first Switch game that you ever owned, Breath of the Wild, it's getting a sequel.
Yeah.
Called Breath of the Wild 2. Even breathier.
Yeah, so not a whole lot is still known about this. The footage they showed a lot of very similar looking things to the existing Breath of the Wild game, but a lot of hints at where the story might go. A lot of speculation is happening today on the internet about who you actually play as. A lot of people are convinced it's not Link. And yeah, what implications that might have for the story of Zelda as a franchise. And so, yeah, it seems like a lot of big Zelda nuts are very excited for this one. We'll have to wait another year. They said they're not quite ready to show a whole lot more. But yeah, it's cool. Means,
so it's coming 2022, probably a holiday 2022.
Probably, yeah. Don't expect this one until probably the end of next year for sure.
But that being said, it's called Breath of the Wild 2. I was hoping for an actual subtitle, but
right. They did say that
not.
there is actually a name, but they're not ready to reveal it because Nintendo says that the name is plot spoiler.
Ah,
And they want
like calling it Age of Calamity is a plot spoiler.
Yeah, exactly. So they don't want to necessarily tell people yet until they're ready to show more.
Yep. I mean, do you think you'd play as someone other than Link?
I have not played Breath of the Wild, so I'm not going to say anything. I don't know enough of the context about what that game does and how that game ends in order to answer that question. But people who have seem to half of them at least seem to be convinced that it means something. But I don't know.
Ooh, do you actually like play as Zelda? Because it's a Zelda game.
That apparently is not happening because one of the things that happens in this trailer is she is yet incapacitated in another creative way, which implies that no, you're saving her again.
I don't know about that. Maybe that's how it starts, and you play as Zelda getting out of there.
Who knows?
Who knows? But yeah, Nintendo crushing it.
Yeah, definitely ended the whole thing with on a high note. But yeah, that was a lot of games we just talked about. What, that took us an hour just to talk about all those games?
Yeah, just about an hour just for E3 games.
I mean, honestly, I'm surprised it didn't take longer. So hey, I think we did pretty good.
I think we did pretty good too.
So yeah, games, video games, play them.
Yep. If you can't for some reason wait to play any of those games,
yeah,
we have new releases.
We do.
Told you we're doing a backwards show.
Yeah, really backwards apparently.
Yep. So there are new games that were announced coming this week, including Red Solstice 2: Survivors for the PC, Alex Kidd in a Miracle World DX for the PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, Switch, PC. If you own it, it's coming.
It's everything.
We also have Dark Alliance for the PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, and PC.
That's Hannibal Buress approved.
Yes, it is. Ender Lilies, Quietus of the Nights for the PS4, PS5, Switch, and PC.
Yep.
Lego Builders Journey for the Switch and PC. And lastly, because it was delayed, or maybe not delayed, Olympic Games Tokyo 2020 dash the official video game for the PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC.
AKA the one that doesn't have the Mario and Sonic characters in it. That's just straight up Olympics.
Right.
Yes.
So the weaker version.
Yeah, exactly. Less fun.
All right. Oh, but wait, we're not done with video games. Because you played something.
Yeah, I just want to talk about this really quick in favor of time. I really wanted to talk about Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart here, but it came in hot, aka this morning I got the disc, so I did not have time. But I am currently in possession of a disc that says Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. I also am in possession of a disc that says Returnal. I will hopefully get a chance to play both of those games soon to get my PS5 on in the proper fashion. But I didn't have a chance to do that before today's show. So next week, hopefully, fingers crossed, I will be able to play some of that. Maybe someone who is a big Ratchet and Clank fan maybe could carve out some time to come over next weekend. Maybe we could both show off, both play some Ratchet and Clank.
So I am super busy this weekend.
Of course you are, because it's Father's Day. But I mean, the weekend after that, I guess.
Yeah, the weekend after that,
we'll maybe have to figure something out.
We'll figure something out.
Yeah, maybe we'll do a stream where we play some Ratchet for y'all.
Yep.
Anyway, so that's to come. But what I did actually have a chance to download and play was what I talked about last week, which is Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis. So this is the new version of Phantasy Star Online 2. This is currently available on Xbox and PC. No word about a PlayStation release. It seems like Microsoft did some sort of exclusivity arrangement with Sega for these, which is why it's not coming out on PS4 or PS5 in the US right now. That being said, if you have either Xbox or PC, you can download this and try this. It's a free-to-play game, just like original PSO2. And yeah, they rebuilt this thing from the ground up. It's a completely different game when you start out. It takes place in a more open world, so there's no more loading screens jumping from the hub world ship to the individual quests. Instead, you just run your character right through a wall and you're out in the open world, Genshin Impact style. Speaking of Genshin Impact, it looks like they've been taking notes about other similar open world games over the last couple years, as the running around, the actual movement is completely changed from the original game. There's an emphasis on dashing, jumping, and gliding, just like a game like Breath of the Wild and Genshin Impact. So it's a lot more fun to play because of that. So when you're doing the quests, it's a lot more fun to get from point A to point B because you can kind of jump and glide around. So yeah, but other than that though, besides those two things, it's still PSO2. So expect a lot of grinding, a lot of missions about like defeating several of the same monster, a lot of menus and organizing your weapons and items and making sure you're using the best possible loot. Listening to a lot of characters talk story at you for a while. So yeah, know what you're getting into, but I'm having some fun with it so far. I haven't played a whole lot of it, maybe touched about 3 to 4 hours of it. But yeah, if you're looking for another open world addiction that you can play with your friends for free, give it a try. If you're kind of tired of Genshin Impact, this is a good like different kind of game that's good that people I think who enjoyed Genshin might find a lot to like here. So yeah, it's out now. It seems like it's doing a lot of cool new stuff, and yeah, as I play more, I'll talk more about it.
Tired of Genshin Impact? Never. What is this blasphemy?
I don't know. Some people, I mean, maybe, but yeah, multiplayer. It looks like though if they're having a little bit of server stability issues. I tried to play a little bit more last night, and I could not get in. Every server was in maintenance, so your mileage may vary depending on when you try to log in. I guess don't try to log in on 7 o'clock at 7 o'clock at night. Apparently, that's when everybody wants to play. But yeah, cool though.
All right, sounds good. And then we'll have Ratchet and Clank and possibly Returnal.
Yeah,
possibly those games next week.
All right.
So the rest of the show should be pretty light.
Hopefully.
As we reverse back up from video games into music. And we always start music with the Billboard. And we start the Billboard with the Hot 100.
Ooh, hot.
Yep. And as with summer, it's still melting like butter, because Butter by BTS is the number one song.
Yes.
At number 2, Good For You by Olivia Rodrigo. 3, Levitating by Dua Lipa featuring DaBaby. At 4, Peaches by Justin Bieber featuring Daniel Caesar and Giveon. And rounding out your top 5, Leave the Door Open by Silk Sonic. If all of that sounds familiar,
yep,
it's because all of these guys have been in the top 5 like for the past 3 months at least.
Yeah, not a whole lot of movement this week in the songs.
Nope, not a whole lot of changes. But we go to our albums chart, our Billboard 200, where we have a new number 1 album this week.
Yeah.
The Voices of the Heroes by Lil Baby and Lil Durk.
Yep. Been a while since I heard both of those, and on the same record, no
exactly.
less. Just for you, they collaborated. They were like, we really like how this guy on this Media Bow podcast says our names, so we're gonna work together.
Lil Baby and Lil Durk get their number 1 album, The Voices of the Heroes. I believe this is the pandemic kind of quarantine or doctor album. Kind of voices for those heroes, I believe.
I don't know if that's the case. I actually don't know. Maybe.
I think I saw something like that about
I just assumed that they were talking about themselves.
Oh, no.
So you might be right. I don't know. I actually did not know that there was some sort of meaning to the name. But anyway. But yeah, good to see Lil Baby gone. DaBaby has been dominating the charts. So it's good to see Lil Baby make a comeback.
Yeah. DaBaby has been on there with Dua Lipa.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to see if I can remember where I heard that somewhere, but
I don't understand why Lil Baby and DaBaby don't team up.
Too many babies.
Too many babies. Sorry, I'm trying to kill time as you do this research.
Yeah. Skipping stuff. All right. So number 2, Sour by Olivia Rodrigo. At 3, Danger Russ, the double album of Morgan Wallen. At 4, The Off Season by basketball player J. Cole. And rounding out your top 5, new to the top 5.
I don't know what this is.
The Chaos Chapter, freeze, in all caps, by Tomorrow Cross Together, or Tomorrow X Together.
So my guess is this is another TikTok thing, because I've never heard of this song and I don't know where it came from, and it's charted somehow, and will probably be number 1 next week for all I know. So yeah, it's probably TikTok.
I'll assume it's TikTok. Let's see here. If you did not like any, I can't find it. I don't know where I saw that. If you can't find any of those albums, we have new releases.
Okay.
Including Peace or Love by Kings of Convenience, the discount version of Kings of Leon.
Yeah, they're much cheaper.
We also have Pedestrian by Max Bloom. Hell to Be You, Baby by MNDR or Minder. Broken Hearts and Beauty Sleep by Mickey Blanco. And the album you should probably be listening to this week. Yeah. Oscar winner, Grammy winner, Tony winner, possibly. EGOTer?
No, not yet.
Close to future EGOTer. Her with Back of My Mind by Her.
Yeah, Her. I don't know. Yeah. The new Her record, I guess.
Her with the new record.
Her.
Then
a couple of short stories for you this week.
Little short stories into music news here. So last week we talked about Lorde and her peculiar picture titled Solar Power.
Yes.
Definitely a lot of Google searches for that. Immediately went up, and a lot of zoom in pictures for that. Well, rumor mill has struck again, because Lorde did indeed release the first single off her new album called Solar Power, with the song of the same name, Solar Power.
Right.
The album has not been given a release date quite yet, but the song is a bit of a departure from melodrama.
So yeah, this is kind of more of a prompt for us to talk about our thoughts about the single. What do you think about Solar Power?
What makes you think I listened to it?
I figured you did.
Oh, I definitely did. It's definitely Lorde. I mean, it's like, oh yeah, that's right. This is what Lorde sounds like. And then I actually went back and listened to some of her stuff, including Green Light. I was like, oh yeah, Lorde can be good at pop stuff.
Yeah.
And kind of excited for the new album.
Yeah.
It's
so you liked it?
Good.
You thought the song was pretty good?
Yeah. You?
I mean, I liked it overall. I mean, like I said, though, it's quite a shift. If you're coming off of melodrama into this, you're probably thinking it's like, okay, she has a very specific mode she likes to write in. She likes to write about the same kind of subjects. Here, all of that thrown out the window. This is more of a mood piece. This is more about her having fun instead of dwelling on relationship drama. Hence the name. Melodrama was pretty much all about that, right? It was about the drama of breakups and rekindling friendships and house parties, kind of that like young, like debauchery kind of feeling of what you do when you're in your early 20s or late teen years. And this is more like, actually, I just want to go to the beach and chill out with my friends. And that's kind of the vibe here. I think that what it's done though is divided a lot of people. I think some people who are expecting the more like specific, heavier Lord was really thrown off by this, and I think they're a little disappointed. Meanwhile, the take I actually have here is this is an interesting change, moving to kind of more tonal, like not being, I guess, straddled to that specific writing style, I think might be freeing for Lord. I think what we might be looking at here, this might be her golden hour. An opportunity for her to be like, I'm just going to sing these more mood pieces as opposed to tell these stories. It's not necessarily a narrative and more a feeling, a vibe. And hey, I think that's great. I'm looking forward to hearing what the rest of this thing sounds like. But unfortunately, we still don't know when it's coming out. I just saw, though, right before we started recording, though, I guess some people are seeing some marketing efforts start around the Solar Power record. I guess she's been now has a video posted of solar power themed crop circles.
Yeah.
So get ready. The marketing machine has been turned on.
Well, she did release her new music video with it last week.
Right.
So.
Yes. So yeah, we'll have to see what she does with the rest of this kind of era of her career. But I'm intrigued. I'm looking forward to what she does.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Glad to see Lord's back.
Yeah.
Our second news story. Hey, did you get your shot yet?
I mean, we did.
I mean, you should have, but
yeah.
If you're the one person holding out for either the free food or free money or whatever other giveaway we can throw at you to make sure that you do get vaccinated, for some reason, you're still holding out at this point. Well, if you're in the Chicago area, maybe you did it for a good reason. Because you're a Dumas. I mean, because you've been waiting for Lollapalooza tickets.
I guess.
So, in order to attend Lollapalooza, you kind of more or less have to be vaccinated.
I mean, you'd hope.
You'd hope, going to a concert festival like that. So, in order to get people in that area vaccinated, because God knows they're going to be probably flooded with a bunch of people who are going to their first concert in over a year.
Yeah.
Well, Chicago is giving away 1,200 Lollapalooza tickets as an incentive for people to get vaccinated. Anyone with an appointment at one of 4 of the city's vaccination sites on June 26th, dubbed Lolla Day, will receive a single day pass to the Grant Park Music Festival this summer. The city said there will also be an opportunity for already vaccinated residents to score tickets through a link released on the Chicago Department's Public Health's website and social media channels on June 27th. Otherwise, tickets are still available for purchase, for $280.
Yeah.
Not including flights and hotels.
So
and food and
needless to say, this is there for as an incentive. People haven't gotten it. It's a nice little cherry on top. $280 is a lot of money though, so maybe try to win these instead of actually having to pay that exorbitant fee, or maybe just don't go to Lollapalooza. Either way, it's neat that Chicago is doing this. I think overall it's a net positive. I mean, might as well give people something, even though the real reward should just be helping your fellow man out. But hey, you know what? Some people are harder.
How many incentives do you need before you do what you should have been doing all this time?
Yeah, well, here we are.
And yet here we are. Yes. Do note that $280 is for the 3-day festival and not the 1-day pass.
Right.
So maybe you should just I don't know, do it for the sake of being vaccinated and shit. Possibly.
Maybe.
I don't know. Hey, I'm not here to tell you what you should do. I'm just here to tell you what most people are doing.
Exactly.
Which is being one of 1,200 people to get Lollapalooza tickets by vaccination.
Anyways,
so we listened to some stuff.
Yeah, we got a couple quick thoughts for you.
You want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go quick. Go first because mine's pretty quick. So, hey, remember Garbage?
You mean Garbage?
Sure, the band Garbage.
Yes.
Big in the 90s, the late 90s, known for being only happy when it rains. Lead singer Shirley Manson, kind of known for being this kind of dark goth girl in an era where there weren't a whole lot of those in mainstream pop music. Well, she never stopped, and they're still putting out Garbage records, although this one's, I believe, after a bit of a hiatus.
So is
She's
this a
back.
Garbage record?
It is a Garbage record, but I'm happy to report it's not a garbage record. It's pretty good. It reminds me of very much like the music that they made in the late 90s. Not a whole lot of change stylistically, and that's a good thing. They're very consistent. If you like the more electronic / industrial inspired side of alternative rock that was happening in that era, for example, Nine Inch Nails comes to mind. This is like that. And lyrically, though, because of course this is a woman singing here, it comes from a very feminist standpoint, and a lot of the songs are about kind of this continuing struggle for women's rights and like accessibility to the same kind of pay, jobs, etc. Because these things are still a problem and have been since Garbage has existed. So yeah, no, it's top form. If you've liked Garbage in the past, give this a try. Fun thing about this one, though, after you're done listening to the first disc of this record, the second disc that's available on streaming services is a fun little bonus. It's a disc of covers that the band has done, including some guests from the band they're covering. It's a lot of fun if you stick around for the covers. There's a lot of good stuff in there too. Or if you just listen to the new record, it's still an enjoyable listen. So yeah, if you want to listen to Garbage, this is new Garbage, and it sounds just as good as the old Garbage. It's fun that they still are around and kicking. They're also supporting Alanis Morissette on her big world tour that's coming up very soon. I actually know somebody who got tickets for that. It's their first big post-COVID concert that they're going to see at the Hollywood Bowl come October. So yeah, it's cool. The 90s are back. 1997 all over again.
1997 all over again. Hey, speaking of it being 1997 all over again, Maroon 5.
I mean, they did not exist in 97, just to be fair.
Okay.
They're a 2000s thing.
Speaking of really old, okay, not that old.
Not that old.
But what is this? They're like 10th studio album, I think?
There's been a lot of Maroon 5 records.
There's been a lot of Maroon 5 records. I believe this is their 10th album.
Something like that.
So, Maroon 5.
Yeah.
Pop band.
Yeah.
But like pop in the lightest sense of the word pop.
Yes. Like the kind of band that you hear so often played out of every speaker, no matter where you go, that it just becomes kind of background music.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, new album out by them. Typically you can consider them your mom's favorite pop band.
Yeah.
At times, because they put out hits. Sure. Not like stadium hits like we're used to, but hits nonetheless, to where they've made probably like 10 albums at this point. I'm just gonna round up.
Famously, Adam Levine has said that they're the only band.
Period.
Remember when he said that a few weeks ago?
Yep. And everyone questioned it, or didn't question it. So yes, former judge of The Voice, Adam Levine, has left The Voice to pursue music with his band, Maroon 5.
Yeah, that's new. You've never done that before.
And with it has produced the album Geordie. So this is a misleading album, as it should be titled Maroon 5 with various artists, because every other goddamn song on this track is featured by something else.
Yeah.
There's Megan Thee Stallion. There's like Black Bear, Stevie Nicks. Her is even on here. Like Juice WRLD. Jason Derulo. YG. It's just every other song is Maroon 5 plus someone else, featuring someone else. And remember, like in the early 2010s, where all pop albums were, here's the pop album plus someone else.
Yeah.
A pop star plus someone else. It's that kind of album. I don't know if I need that album here in 2021.
Right.
I mean, I'm glad I don't have to listen to Adam Levine sing the whole time, so it's a break.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's not a true Maroon 5 album. It's that very over synthesized, very overproduced, and you can tell it's very overproduced album that Maroon 5, for better or worse, has made their mark on.
Yeah.
You be the judge. Mileage may vary.
I mean, yeah, it seems like this is the kind of stuff that they've been delivering as of late. They found a niche for themselves, and it is that very right down the middle, like pop music that's enjoyable in passing. But if you think about it too much, it kind of falls apart.
It's also that pop music where every song kind of sounds the same, where it's chorus, verse, verse, chorus, verse, chorus, verse.
So yeah, I guess if you're still somehow a Maroon 5 person, this sounds like something that you could get into. But if you're over them, like I think most of us are, this is not going to convince you.
Oh, I'll convince you. Remember how I mentioned that Justin Bieber album Justice? And I said, if you've never listened to Justin Bieber, this is probably a good album because it's your first introduction to him.
Right.
Same rule can apply here to Maroon 5. If you've never listened to a Maroon 5 album ever, and this is your first one, yeah, it's very popping. You might like it. But then you look at the catalog and be like, oh, they put out better stuff before.
Yeah.
Also, all these songs are very much in the vein of love songs, love pop songs. And for some reason, every chorus has that echoey, like na echo kind of repeating reverb.
Yeah.
And it's annoying, especially when you do it on every single song.
Yeah. I can imagine.
That being said, pop radio stations will play the shit out of this.
Oh, well, obviously.
Because it's LCD.
Yeah, they cannot escape the pull of the Maroon 5 as much as they would want to.
It's the safe song. It's the safe pop.
You know what when I just realized what Maroon 5 is? It is the most iHeartRadio band.
I believe that, yes.
Yeah, when you think about just the image of what iHeartRadio purports to be, I immediately think of Maroon 5.
You know what? That's accurate. I will buy that.
Yeah. If the iHeartRadio was a band, Maroon 5. Anyways, let's stop talking about Maroon 5 now.
Yes. Okay. Let's talk about an actual band here. So I did listen to technically 2 albums, or I tried to.
Okay.
So AFI put out a new album.
Yeah.
The past week, and I tried to listen to it.
Tried.
So I got 2 songs into it, and then I realized I'm gonna put on a better album, and I put on Foo Fighters instead.
Okay. So not didn't grab you.
Didn't grab me. I mean, it hit like the high school vibes.
Sure.
But then when I was thinking about it, I was like, you know what? If I'm gonna listen to like stuff I was in high school, might as well listen to stuff I actually listened in high school.
Well, also that's pretty much what you said about the Rise Against record last week, where you're like, that if I wanted to be nostalgic, I have this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except the Rise Against record was actually better than in AFI.
So there you go. AFI, I guess maybe don't bother with it.
No.
So
I also listened to that because we talked about it so much, and we make fun of it so much. Media Boat favorite, King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard.
Yeah. Okay. How's that?
It is surprisingly good.
Okay.
In the sense that I couldn't tell. It's what I think of when I think of a full album, because I couldn't tell where one song stopped and the next song started. It's a full album, complete cover to cover. To where I liked it, I enjoyed it, but at the same time, I didn't understand like, oh, this is a new song, because it felt like all one song. It just flowed right into the next one, which is good. I like it when albums do that. But if you're not able to distinguish between new song, then you get into that kind of pitfall of every song sounds the same.
Yeah.
So check it out if you want. They have like a bunch of albums, and I think all of them are kind of like this, but hey, we'll continue to report on King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard.
We will. All right. Is it time then?
It is time then. So I throw this to you, and we start with cancellations and renewals.
No, we're not doing it that way. I'm going to start from the top of television. Let's start from the top of television because that's our next section that we always talk about on this show. And of course, we always start television with the Sports Corner. And today in sports, there's a bunch to talk about. First up, NASCAR. Kyle Larson has won the All-Star race.
Yeah, Kyle Larson, speed racist.
Still calling him that?
Still calling him that. Ever since last year, I forced myself off that Kyle Larson train, and even though he's winning and he's doing good, not getting back on there.
Can't get over that.
Yeah. Can't get over it. Nope.
Don't blame you. But in happier news, in the French Open, that's tennis, your winners, Novak Djokovic won the men's singles, while the true winner, though, was Barbara, oh boy, this name, Krejcikova? Is that close?
That's close, yeah, Kova.
Won both women's singles and doubles with Katerina Siniakova as her partner. So Kova, we'll call her, has become the first woman since Mary Pierce back in 2000 to win the French Open singles and doubles titles in the same year. So congratulations.
Notably, she was unranked as the singles. Typically, she's the doubles partner. She's a doubles player, but she entered as a singles and won. So we know who's carrying that team.
Yeah, wow. It turns out. And then meanwhile, in the sport of dog breeding, the Pekingese won the Best in Show from the delayed Westminster Kennel Club Dog Show.
Yeah, typically this is in November for Thanksgiving.
Right.
Delayed to June of this year. Yeah. And the Pekingese named Wasabi.
Aw, the Wasabi.
Yes.
It was a very cute dog. Yeah, a little cute little fluff ball.
Yeah, the like Roomba mop that runs around everywhere, low to the ground.
Such a cutie. So yeah, a good one won. Congratulations to Wasabi. Not so congratulations to basketball player Chris Paul, who has entered COVID-19 safety protocol and is sidelined for an indefinite period of time.
Okay. Hold on.
Oh, is there breaking news?
Yes. There's a soccer player who injury.
Okay.
So God, find this guy's name. It's a European league, so I didn't understand what they were saying. I could see it. A guy had a heart attack.
Oh. And this is breaking news.
The guy had a heart attack while playing soccer, and they had to stop the match.
Yeah, I bet.
Like his heart just stopped. That was a throw in. They threw the ball to him. It hit his chest, and both he and the ball fell down, and was given immediate CPR on the pitch.
You would hope. Jeez, that's rough. Well, we hope that the person recovers.
Yeah, Denmark star Christian Eriksen.
I see. Okay, Christian Eriksen
collapsed during the mid game. Immediately CPR. They stopped the game. They canceled the game.
Yeah.
And immediately rushed to the hospital. He's doing fine. He's recovered.
Okay.
Still in the hospital. So it does have a happy ending, but scary scene when you're just standing there from sliding for a ball and then it inbounds to you and you just collapse.
Yeah. Our heart goes out to him and his family. That's got to be rough to deal with. And the team, I'm sure.
Yeah. If you watch that video, you're confused at first as to what's going on.
Yeah.
And then like everyone just starts like trying to rush doctors over to try and get him. And it gets scary real fast.
I bet. All right. Anything else in sports before we move on to another sports story, but our first proper television story of the week?
Football NFL mini camps are starting.
Okay.
Currently, there's no sighting of Aaron Rodgers at Green Bay.
Yeah.
Following that story. Not quite reporting on it yet because there's no news on it yet. It's just that Aaron Rodgers is yet to report to training camp.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's being fined like $10,000 a day but when you make like $30 million, he can kind of
Yeah, doesn't have to do nothing.
Do nothing.
All right. On that note, let's move on to our first television story, which just also happens to be a sports story. In fact, it was the sports story that dominated sports this week and will continue to have repercussions throughout baseball. Let's talk about this mess. Okay. Major League Baseball announced new guidelines for substance enforcement, including a 10-day suspension for any pitcher who, quote, possesses or applies foreign substances during a game. This means widely used substances such as sunscreen, not for use on your skin, but specifically for use while pitching a baseball, will be banned, as well as spider tack, a now popular grip substance also used for pitching purposes. Enforcement of the new policy will begin on June 21st, but side note, some teams have already started banning the use of the materials in their stadiums. Just this week, in the series versus Oakland, the Angels pitchers were not allowed to use any sort of substance when they pitched, and you saw results in the game. Several hit pitches because of pitches that were going inside that they lost control of because they didn't have the same kind of effect on the pitch thanks to that substance. So we're already seeing kind of the repercussions of this. Anyway, Carlos Rodon of the Chicago White Sox has spoken out about the new guideline. He said, quote, it's hard to see this when you're giving out 10-game suspensions for cheating, but you give the Astros no suspensions at all. If Rob Manfred can look himself in the mirror and say, hey, I'm doing the right thing, that's fine. But if you can't suspend the team you actually knew was cheating during a playoff game, that's on you. According to the commissioner, the new policy is the response to record strikeouts and declining batting averages. I guess the thought process is that the pitchers have less control over their pitches. You're going to have more hits. That remains to be seen, unless you're talking about hits to the shin.
So remember how before we started the season, we talked about how they were changing the baseballs?
Yes.
And now they're changing the grip of the pitchers.
Yeah.
Because, hey, it might be too effective.
So
they wanted not enough. So they were complaining about too many home runs the previous season. And now they're complaining about not enough home runs.
Yeah. Really quick, I wanted to show you something. So I ended up not having time to do all of the captions this week, which is why I haven't been running them. But I did have time to do this one, which I was really proud of.
Baseball's new patch.
Because that's what it feels like, right? It feels like they're nerfing pitching, right? It's like they decided like, pitching is OP. We need to increase the number of hits in these games. Let's issue a patch. That's what it feels like. They're like now like micromanaging the game of baseball. Why bother?
So last month we noted that there had been a record number of like complete games being thrown,
right?
And perfect games being thrown,
more perfect games than ever.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
In case you didn't see, the Angels did lose today, 4-8.
Right. And they lost that game too. So it's like, yep. I think that there's an argument to be had, I think, by people watching games that have been already affected by this change. It does seem like the pitchers are having a little bit harder of a time keeping their pitches in the zone. Also, Rodon here gives a great point about this imbalanced position about cheating in the game and what they believe is cheating and what is totally, I guess, fine without suspensions. And yeah, it's really up to the league to make sure that they're clear about the kind of changes that they're making, because you got to be consistent or else the players are going to be like, well, what's next? Can I not like chew bubblegum anymore? Like, are you going to take that away from us?
Right. Is cheating, I won't say is cheating allowed, because cheating is never allowed, but where do you draw the line? Because
what is
clearly
cheating?
There's cheating with the Houston Astros and yet no suspension.
Right. And
yet with pitchers, you can be suspected of cheating.
Yeah. I would argue.
And then 10-day suspension.
I would argue that the frickin' constant loud drum and percussion stuff that they've been pulling in Oakland is more distracting than anything else for those pitchers, right? Like, that's got to be annoying.
Yeah.
And yet they allow them to do that.
Remember when they were pumping in crowd noise like 5 years ago?
Yeah. I mean, the league's got to make it clear, I guess, be consistent about these things, because if you just start video gaming and micromanaging the game of baseball, it's going to look like a completely different animal in just a year. Like, who knows when we're on the other side of this, if they change so much about it, what is this game going to look like?
Remember, they keep making these changes in order to keep fans invested.
Right.
And when your home run leader is only at 22 coming up on the All-Star break next month,
yeah,
gone are the days of players hitting 50, 60 in a season.
Perhaps what you need to actually look at is the preponderance of injuries we've been having this season. When you're previously assumed to be MVP of his league, Mike Trout, it may not even make it to the All-Star game this year because of an injury. Maybe that's what we should be looking at.
Right. When you open the season with an injury on big name Tatis.
Yeah, right. Your cover athlete goes down. Like, maybe this is the conversation we should be having. Like, I don't know. It's obnoxious.
Conditioning.
We'll have to figure out, like, they'll have to figure out what's like the end game here. I don't know what it looks like. Hopefully we won't have too many people hit by too many baseballs, but man, it looks really, really bad. And I hope it doesn't continue that way.
Yep.
All right. Next,
by the way, we got swept by the Athletics and are returning home with our tails between our legs.
We won 2 straight series and ended up being swept in the next one. But hey, this is the reason why they're the top of our division. Let's move on to a proper television story, talking about Disney Plus. So,
hey, we like Disney Plus.
Yeah,
new episode of Loki today.
In fact, this story has to do exactly with that. Apparently, the success of Loki, premiering on Wednesdays, has now given Disney the freedom of messing around with their schedules for their future projects as well. The move will officially take effect for Disney Plus shows beginning in July. Now, Monsters at Work will premiere on July 7th, and Turner and Hooch will premiere on July 21st. In case you're wondering, those are both Wednesdays following the Loki model. Disney Plus original movies, though, will continue to launch on Friday.
So they took a look at the Loki numbers and realized that, hey, people talk. And they see the numbers bump up.
Yeah.
Where do people talk? The workplace.
Yeah.
So when you premiere something on Wednesday, that gives you both Thursday and Friday to talk about it and see those numbers bump up. Instead of having to wait over the weekend where you may lose interest or something else gets in the way, and then it kind of loses that water cooler moment. Yeah, I say water cooler moment now that people are going back into the office.
I mean, a similar argument could have been made back in the day when HBO was doing Game of Thrones on Sunday nights, right? It's because you always had something to talk about on Monday morning.
Right. Also, this gets them out of the way of everything else releasing their new stuff on Fridays.
Right.
So you're no longer battling with eyes for that new release Friday. You have Wednesday and Thursday to do it.
You've carved out your own day of the week that is your Disney Plus day, which is what they needed to do. It's your must-see TV.
Yeah.
It's that approach.
Well, and you can't do Thursdays because that's Thursday must-see TV.
Right.
So Wednesday works.
Clearly still must-see. I mean, I can't name a single show that occurs on Thursday nights on NBC, but I'm sure somebody is watching them.
I don't know, but I know Wednesday is Chicago Wednesdays.
There you go. Chicago Wednesday is still there. Speaking of Chicago Wednesdays, you didn't watch Chicago Wednesdays, but you did watch a couple of things.
Yes. I watched, so I passively watched the new show by Dwayne Wade. Okay. Yes.
That Dwayne
Wade. He has a new show called The Cube on TNT.
Oh.
Which is new, but not new.
Okay, what is The Cube?
The Cube is the game center where you enter the cube and you're trying to win 7 games in a row to win the $250,000 prize.
Okay.
What kind of games are you playing? Well, you remember party games like Minute to Win It?
Oh yeah.
Those kind of games.
I see.
Memory games, skill games, kind of balancing games. Those kind of games.
Yeah.
If you win 7 in a row, you win $250,000.
Hey.
They get harder as you go.
I'm sure they do.
But you do get some lives. Guess how many lives you get in the cube?
3.
No.
2.
More.
5.
More.
10.
Close.
7.
9.
Oh,
Why
like a
9
cat.
instead of 6?
Because a cat.
Cube is 6 sides, but
because a cat.
9 lives.
Because cats.
Yeah, but there's no like physical cat anywhere though.
It's a metaphorical cat.
Yeah. Well, see, that's why I thought like 6 would be better because you can like read out a side of the cube as you go.
And now the cube only went so far in the theming here.
9 lives in the cube. But yeah, it's basically Minute to Win It, but Dwayne Wade hosts. And if you win the games with your partner, you get $50,000. Otherwise, it's tiered ladder stuff up to them.
Okay.
Summer games. It's summer game fun.
Summer game fun.
Questionable fun? I don't know. It's one of the things you're like, oh yeah, I could do that. Or maybe I could do that. Speaking of things that, hey, I could do that.
Yeah.
Or maybe I could do that. Or maybe it just goes on in my head constantly. I caught up on TV, including Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist.
Okay.
So when I talked about season 1, I said it was a good concept. Not sure how well they could keep it going, and whether or not the ending finale kind of justified the whole point of the whole thing. And yet I feel the same way at the end of season 2. It's more or less what Glee was, where you break out into show tunes and music and you sing your feelings. But this is this is Zoe in Silicon Valley. It's hard for me to say that I liked this show.
Yeah.
But it's also hard for me to say that it's necessarily a bad show. Because what it wanted to do, it did it well. I just couldn't glom onto it as much as it wanted to be, it wanted me to be.
Right.
Especially being an hour long.
Yeah.
You can get a lot. I mean, Glee was an hour long, and you can get a lot into there, a lot of songs. So when you're talking about singing about your feelings, and those feelings necessarily don't change a whole lot from episode to episode, it's like, okay, how many love songs can we fit?
Retreading a lot of the same ground.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think it worked. I know a lot of people didn't think it worked. There was a lot of will they, won't they, a lot of different stuff that they tried to do in this past season, in season 2, including like adding a lot of racial tension and a lot of will they, won't they tension, as well as other current event tension. And I'm not sure how much of that actually stuck throughout the series, because they did try and make it a big point of some of the side characters. But when you're a side character, it can only get so big because you're not the main character.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the problem that it has, that the side characters were all interesting, but not necessarily the main character.
That's a problem when you're mostly dealing with your main protagonists.
Right. And when your main protagonist is white female. Yeah.
You can only do so much. Yeah. I mean, from what I understood, friend of the show, Christy, has also been also caught up with season 2 of this thing, and she kind of felt about the same about it, which was like, it's just they never really nailed that balance.
There was a lot of cinematography and a lot of choreography that I really liked, but not enough to keep me justifying watching it.
Right. It's tough. It's a tough balance, but yeah, I think that this has been the story of a lot of NBC's stuff the last decade. I feel like they can't find anything that hits that balance that is critically beloved and also like popular. Like for whatever reason, they can't get there, and like they get close with stuff like this and Superstore. That's just like it's all right, but they're base hits. They're not home runs, and
Right.
they haven't had a home run in a very long time. So
like The Office and Parks and Rec.
So what you need to do is basically you need to take HBO and Disney Plus's substances that they're using to pitch these balls and nerf them so that way that NBC can hit more home runs. That's what I'm saying.
You got to take their spider tar out of it.
Right, you got to take spider tack. Out. Yeah, streaming is using too much spider tack, if you ask me. I don't know why in this scenario the streaming networks are pitching to the networks, but whatever.
Well, because you have to pitch your show to the networks.
You do have to pitch the shows. That's true. You just throw a show at them. Here's a pilot. Anyway,
too much spider tack.
It's a curve pilot.
All right. So, did you watch anything else?
No, I did not. I'm really behind in a lot of television. So yeah, I will try to think of something, but no, I don't think I watched anything.
So I started watching The Queen's Gambit. I know, late to the party much.
Oh, wait, I do have one thing. Sorry, I'll let you finish first.
That's gonna be a slow burn for me because it's an hour long, and
yeah,
there's not like your hour long TV show, network show because commercials. This is hour long Netflix show, so it's gonna be the full hour.
Yeah,
and based off the first episode, I can see why people like it, but at the same time, it has that very Netflix gut thing of it has to be an hour long. So we're going to extend scenes and characters more than they necessarily should, and just chew so much scenery to the point where, okay, I get it, move on. And I feel like that's going to be the full thing for me watching these shows.
Sounds like it.
But
Modern
I'll do
Prestige.
what I can with them until Too Hot to Handle season 2 comes.
Yeah, that's what you're waiting on. No, I'll tell you what you should be watching. The thing I almost forgot to talk about, but man, is already making my week. This and Metroid together was like a just fantastic day. Tuca and Birdie is back.
That's right. Tuca Birdie season 2 on Comedy Central.
Adult Swim, weirdly enough. I had forgotten who made the deal as well. But yes, this is now an Adult Swim show. And sure enough, the first episode of the second season premiered late at night, although it is available on YouTube for free if you want to see the first episode of the season. And already off to a strong start. It's carried over all of the charm and great characters and hilarious visual gags from the first season. Hasn't missed a beat. Still just as enjoyable. And if you missed the first season, by the way, the entirety of the first season is still available on Netflix if you want to catch up. But if you missed it, the first episode of season 2 acts as kind of a second pilot. It's a very good introduction to the characters if you aren't already familiar with them. But if you are, it's kind of a nice bonus because you're like kind of like reuniting with some old friends. So yeah, it's a really, really great first episode. I don't want to say too much of it because I think half of the charm of the show is how much it surprises you, especially with how it uses visual stuff in a way that a lot of modern animation doesn't. In fact, I remember when I talked about the first season on this podcast, that was one of the biggest things about it to me was it takes full advantage of being an animated show. Everything is moving. There's background elements that come alive and are expressive, and words that the characters are saying sometimes show up visually. It's very engaged in a visual language just as much as it is about the conversations the characters are having in the scenes. And I think that it makes it a very unique show. But it also doesn't steer clear of talking about some heavy subject matter. Not as heavy as maybe some of the darker moments in BoJack Horseman, but there's a lot of shared DNA between those shows. shared literal talent too behind the scenes. So it makes sense that why there'd be kind of a similar kind of idea, but it's a lot lighter than BoJack is. It's a lot more gag heavy. It's less referential too. So you don't have to have a encyclopedic knowledge of, Hollywood like you do sometimes for BoJack to work. But yeah, I would 100% recommend Tuca and Birdie. I'm excited to see that it's back, and I'm excited to see the rest of the season.
I forgot that premiered.
Yeah. So yeah. Now we are safe to move on to our final segment of the day. Usually our first segment, which of course is movies.
Nope.
Yes.
What am I no longer watching?
We aren't quite done. You're right.
I told you were going to forget.
I always do. Cancellations and renewals is the real next segment. Let's go through it real quick. The aforementioned Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist. Guess what? Well, you don't need to watch any more of it because NBC has put down the axe on it after 2 seasons. No more.
It's fine. Where it ends, it feels kind of like a series finale.
So it made sense.
There's no like cliffhanger stuff. It's like, oh, they're all kind of like moving on to bigger and better things.
This is just where these characters are going to live now.
Yeah.
Next up, HBO Max is bringing back Starstruck for a 2nd season. Apple TV Plus is bringing back See for a 3rd season. One of my favorite names.
That's with Jason Momoa. And it's ahead of the season 2 premiere.
See. Then Manifest on NBC, canceled after 3 seasons.
Oh no, the Wonder Twins.
Oh no, what's going to happen there? And then Freeform's Cruel Summer, renewed for a 2nd season. Oh well. Next up, couple deaths. Ned Beatty, aged 83. Actor, was in Network, Deliverance, Superman, even Toy Story 3. Long, storied career.
Yep, he was Lotso Hugging Stuff in Toy Story 3.
Yes.
He was also on one of our favorite returning characters from 30 Rock.
Yes. And we also have Lisa Baines, age 65. Actress in Cocktail, Young Guns, Gone Girl, among other movies.
This one was a surprise death because I think it was Hit and Run. What I saw.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah. Sad one.
Sad one.
Now we can move on to movies. Our last segment of the day. And we always start the last segment of the day, or movies, with the weekend box office numbers. Your number 1 this week, A Quiet Place Part 2, with another $12 million. That's at $109 million. Yes, a movie did it in 2021. We have our first 100 million maker. So eat your heart out, Godzilla.
Yes, Godzilla currently sits at 99.7. And just like looking up at A Quiet Place, like, oh no, the ceiling.
Yeah. Number 2, though, In the Heights, which we will talk about in just a few moments, $11.5 million debut. Ouch.
Not including streaming numbers. But we'll never get streaming numbers.
So I'm sure Warner is very disappointed in this number. I think that all signs, to them at least, suggested that moviegoing was only going to increase after Memorial Day. This does not seem to have come to fruition. And I imagine that they wanted this number to be a lot higher than it is. So already there are headlines talking about that, at least when you talk about the theatrical release side, this is a flop immediately. It's really going to be the test here of whether Warner thinks that the money that they made in the HBO Max version of this recouped enough of these costs to make this not a total failure. But I can't imagine that Warner is very rosy on this figure right here.
It's a $55 million budget, but yeah, that is a very low.
Very low. Equally as low, the number 3, The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, in its 2nd week, made another $10 million. That's at $44 million. Number 4, a movie that's only in limited release, but because we're talking about how small numbers these are, makes sense. Peter Rabbit 2, The Runaway, $10 million. And then number 5, Cruella, another $6.7 million. That's at $56 million total domestic. Upcoming this week, couple movies for you. First up, The Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard.
Sequel to The Hitman's Bodyguard.
Right. So, yeah, double possessive there.
Yep.
Then also the aforementioned Peter Rabbit 2, The Runaway, gets its wide release on the 18th, so Friday.
Technically, last week was its wide release. It jumped a week just because it could.
Because that's what rabbits do. They jump.
Yeah.
So yeah, the big release, of course, you know what it is. It comes out next week. So hold your horses, your horsepower, I guess I should say.
Yes.
Till next week for that one. In the meantime, we got a couple of movie stories for you this week. The first of us takes us to the world of The Lord of the Rings, but in a way that you may not have expected. Kenji Kamiyama, director of Ghost in the Shell, the Japanese anime classic, will direct War of the Rohirrim, a feature-length animated movie, yes, animated movie, set in the world of The Lord of the Rings. This will be a joint project between Warner Brothers Animation and New Line Cinema, with plans for global distribution by Warner Brothers Pictures. The movie will tell, quote, the untold story behind the fortress of Helm's Deep, delving into the life and blood-soaked times of one of Middle-earth's most legendary figures, the mighty King of Rohan, Helm Hammerhand. The ninth king of Rohan, Helm's life was defined by his defense of his people against invaders from the nearby Dunland, particularly during a winter siege of the fortress later known as Helm's Deep, a location that featured largely in Peter Jackson's The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. Joseph Chow from Blade Runner Black Lotus, Jeffrey Addis, and Will Matthews from The Dark Crystal will co-write the screenplay, with Philippa Boyens from the Lord of the Rings trilogy with Peter Jackson on board to consult.
Yeah, I think that's Philippa Boyens.
Okay. Thank you, Philippe.
Yep.
This is an interesting idea. I would love to see what a animated take on The Lord of the Rings looks like, especially if they're going all the way and doing this theatrically.
There's two things about this, though. One, it's animated.
Yeah.
So how much they have to pay royalties for Lord of the Rings stuff. Two, wait, did I do that right? 1, 2.
That's how that goes, typically 1 and 2.
Yeah. Second is that because it is animated and based off the battle of the War of Rohirrim, that since they're technically making backstories for these characters, how much of that affects, say, either the Lord of the Rings or even the Tolkien estate? So if they're doing this on their own just to say, hey, we made a Lord of the Rings movie to keep the IP.
Yes. I think you're onto something here, because this is laser targeted to be something that they have the rights to do. Because other companies, of course, are doing other adaptations of the Tolkien material. Just look at the Amazon television series. This is their way of doing exactly what you said, keeping their IP rights for films by doing something that's such a small sliver of the universe that they helped solidify, I guess, that they can get away with it.
Right. And if it can point back towards the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings in some capacity,
what they want to do.
Which is what they want to do.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's their way of getting around
a
bunch of legalese.
I mean, I think a good parallel here is the Avengers video game and the Avengers movies, right? You would think that would be the same thing, but because of the weird rights and companies involved, the characters, even though they're the same superheroes in the movies largely, have to look completely different than their film counterparts in the video game. This is another one of those examples. It's like, even though you're adapting the same source material, your version has to be distinct enough so that way that version does not get confused with yours and vice versa.
Right, but it has to be similar enough to where you can see what it is that it is without tilting your head and squinting.
Yeah. It's going to be an interesting line to walk here, a new line. So we'll see what they do, but still, the concept of a modern animated Lord of the Rings film, I can see that working.
So because they're making this Lord of the Rings movie, or maybe not because, but as a result of them announcing this movie, the Lego Batman 2 movie that they were supposedly going to make is now scrapped.
Okay.
Sorry, Will Arnett. Sorry, not sorry, Will Arnett.
He's got other projects. You know, he's doing Lego Masters.
Lego Masters.
And he's a voice in that Wonderlands game. So, you know, he's keeping busy.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right. Now we can move on to our second story in movies this week, of course, which is yet another update about our theater chain friends over at AMC. But this time they're doing something culturally relevant, something very interesting for some of our marginalized friends. The theater chain will be presenting a week-long AMC Black Picture Showcase at select theaters nationwide starting this Friday to celebrate Juneteenth. The holiday commemorates the abolishment of slavery in the U.S., in case you're not familiar. Recently, news this week, there's a lot of movements around the nation trying to get it to be a national holiday. So we'll see if that comes to fruition or not. Yeah, that'd be nice to have. Tickets for the event at the AMC will cost $5 to one of the next 7 films: Do the Right Thing, Harriet, The Waterman, Fences, Moonlight, Barbershop: The Next Cut, and Love and Basketball. The films will be available for private theater rentals as well. AMC CEO Adam Aron said, quote, "This is a proud and historic moment for AMC that could not have happened without the influence of our African American associates who use their voices to underscore the importance of honoring Juneteenth as a bedrock of American history. This opportunity is a celebration of the impact and accomplishments of African Americans in cinema." So yeah, this is cool that they're doing this. It's a nice variety too of Black stories in film. You know, there's comedy, there's drama, there's
Oscar winners in there.
Yeah, there's a couple of Best Picture winners and Best Picture nominees going on in here. Some historical films, something for everybody here. So yeah, I think this is really great that they're doing this. Of course, we're not really the people to speak to the importance of Juneteenth and you know, really give context. That unfortunately, that person who would be able to do that is not on this podcast. But what we can say is that I think that this is a good idea, and more of this is not a bad thing. To remind people that this is a part of our history here in the U.S. and that we need to never forget it.
Well said.
All right, that's it for news. But we have one last thing to do.
Oh, we watched stuff.
We watched a couple of movies. So, real quick.
Last week, we mentioned 2 movies that we were going to catch up on.
Yes. One of them, I failed to do so. I still haven't finished Raya. I'm probably just going to watch it again with Christy. So when I carve out some time, possibly to do that. It's been a really busy couple of weeks, y'all. Not going to lie. So I have not had that much time. But when I do, I'll catch up with that. But you caught up with something.
Yes, I watched The Mitchells versus the Machines.
Yes.
Movie you said I should watch on Netflix.
Yes.
That is a family movie.
Yeah, but it's a
super
real good
family.
But it's a real good one.
But it's a good one of those.
Yeah.
Yes. It reminded me a lot of 500 Days of Summer with that kind of quick cuts, animation, kind of breaking the fourth wall ish.
The vibe, sure.
The vibe was very it. Same with Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which, hey, Sony Animation. What do you know?
That makes sense.
That makes sense. But yeah, super family movie. This is like the most family-est movie I've seen in a long time. But also like a good one of those family-ass movies. So one that I was happy to have watched.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think what you said was like spot on. It's definitely something that anyone can turn on. You don't necessarily have to watch it with family. It's a good one of those comedy. There's a lot in it for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of stuff you can relate to, a lot of stuff you can point to and laugh at. It's a good one of those movies. So yes, thank you for telling me to watch it.
Yeah, it's fun. It's funny. It's everything you want in something that's produced by Lord and Miller.
Yep.
It's very much their vibe to it throughout. It's colorful. It's very inventive with its animation. I worry that this is going to be something that people are going to forget about because of how early in the year it came out. But come awards season, I would love to see this get some recognition at the Oscars because the work that they did just purely from an animation perspective, is enough to get this thing a shoe-in to win a Best Animated Feature category.
If you don't, I can easily see this becoming a cult film in 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
That's the other one that reminded me of it. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World.
Very much
similar vibe.
Visual in the same kind of way. Also uses its soundtrack in a few similar ways too. It's very heavy with music, and yeah, it's just a fun time. It's just a fun ass time with the movie. So yeah, if y'all haven't seen it yet, please go check it out. It's on Netflix. The Mitchells versus the Machines. I'm glad you liked it.
Yep. Doctor liked it. It took her some time to get into it.
Sure. Yeah.
She enjoyed it more than she thought she would. And I put it on like, oh, why are we watching this? I've been told it's pretty good. So yeah,
it's a fun time.
Fun time. Speaking of fun times.
All right.
So beginning of this podcast.
Last but not least.
Way back like 2 hours ago.
I know, nearly.
I said we'd have a surprise.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's here. We've reached the height of that buildup.
Yes.
And we are literally in the middle of that buildup. We are in the height of that buildup.
They're cheering for it.
Yeah, they're cheering for it. We are in the heights of it. So
let's talk about. You said it.
Yes, I said it. So let's talk about In the Heights. Lin-Manuel Miranda's Broadway play come to a screen near you and in your theaters.
So yeah, just for a little bit of a background context for you, In the Heights actually predates Hamilton. It is Lin-Manuel Miranda's first big Broadway musical that he did back in 2007. Just like Hamilton, it is also a story about marginalized immigrants trying to make their life in a world that is much bigger than them. Except this is a more intimate version of that story, whereas Hamilton was about a historical figure who just happened to be an immigrant in a prominent position of power that eventually ends in his demise. In the Heights is more of an intimate, more relatable modern day story of just people trying to make it in the Washington Heights area of New York City, and the trials and tribulations and drama they encounter as they start losing the feeling of the community that they had, whether it's from people coming in and gentrifying by putting in places that that cost a lot more than they have before, being disrespected by government by not turning their power back on when they absolutely need to be cooled from the oppressive heat, or more intimate individual stories like romantic disputes, or maybe issues with family, or not being able to do what you want to do because you're an undocumented immigrant, that kind of story. And it kind of touches on all of these things. And hey, it's a musical, so they sing about it too.
So that's the background.
Yeah.
Broadway, successful on Broadway.
Yes.
Successful enough to win some Tony Awards. It didn't win the Tony Award, right?
It did. It won Best Musical in 2008. It did win.
So it won the Tony Award.
The Tony Award.
The Tony Award. It is that Tony.
This is the thing that put Lin-Manuel on the map. This is the thing that got him in a conversation to start the ball rolling with Hamilton.
This is the one that got in conversations for Moana.
Exactly, yes. You wouldn't have the Lin-Manuel Miranda we know of today without this being as big of a success as it was back in the last decade.
Mm-hmm.
2 decades ago. Jeez.
Yep. 2 decades. So how does that translate from Broadway to film? The big question everyone's asking, or, if you're asking that question, how does it translate from Broadway to film? Because most of the time it can't be a straight adaptation. You have to cut some stuff. You have to adjust it. You have to get something for the audience of the film, because it's not a 4-hour investment. It's a quite lengthy 2.5 hours. I think it's a 2.5 hour film.
It is nearly 2.5 hours.
Yeah. So lots to cover, lots to talk about. Where do we begin?
I mean, I think one of the big things up front is, yes, if you heard that 2 hours and 30 minutes and you also heard that it's a musical and both of those things turned you off immediately, that's okay. This doesn't have to be for everybody. There's going to be an audience that is like, I'm not going to watch nearly 3 hours of this. And I get it. Musical adaptations are often very, very, very long, and this is no exception. The flip side of that, however, is that if you're a fan of the original, they didn't cut a whole lot. A friend of the show, Christy, was able to tell us the minor differences between this adaptation and the original musical, and there aren't that many. It seemed like the changes that they did make were either made for time or they were made because certain things work better when you're telling a story in a movie as opposed to things that work better in storytelling in a stage musical. So, you know, nothing too out there. Reasonable changes were made. So the people who are looking for an authentic experience are going to largely get it here. This is more or less the musical that everybody fell in love with from Broadway. So yeah, it seems like in the transition to film, I think they did a pretty damn good job of translating this into a fun movie experience. There's a lot of visual tricks that they use. They take the opportunity that being a movie allows them to be way more visual and metaphorical with their visual stuff than they would on stage. For example, one of the standouts to me is a character who is also a fashion designer is kind of having her kind of big want song, more or less, and is envisioning the world inspiring her with literal billowing pieces of fabric falling off of the sides of buildings in life in kind of this dreamscape. And that's supposed to be, of course, a metaphor for her being like, I need this inspiration to fall on me in order to become this dream, to get this dream job of being a true fashion designer that I want. A cool thing visually that you can't really do on stage that you're able to do in a film like this. And it doesn't stop there. They do other stuff like literally having characters walk on sides of buildings to show their feeling in that moment. Cool things that you can really only do with the visual language of film. So I think it makes it feel more like a lived in world that way than just listening to a soundtrack of the original Broadway show would. And that's a neat thing that they can do.
Yeah, it definitely lends itself to an more open narrative than you can on stage. Because on stage, it's a set, it's blocked. Blocked sets. Like, it's not a whole lot of it changing. Yeah. But in film, the whole block is the set. You can go anywhere. You can move the camera throughout the city, and it does that, and it does it real nicely.
Yeah.
A lot of the characters interact throughout with other set pieces. I mean, the obvious one that comes to mind is the pool scene, because you can't do that inside on a stage.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
So say what you will about the film La La Land. I understand it's very divisive. I think people either loved that thing or hated it. I think I loved it initially, and I probably gushed about it on this podcast back when it came out.
You did.
Now I've softened on a little bit. I think it does some things really well and other things not so well. But what it did is it kind of reintroduced the way that modern film can approach the musical. And I think it has opened a lot of doors for modern musical adaptations. I think you see a lot of bits of La La Land in the way that they brought In the Heights to film. And yeah, I think that ultimately it's a good thing if it leads to this kind of musical film.
Yeah. The film's very colorful. It uses color a lot throughout, not just in costume design, but in set design as well.
Yeah, it's a beautiful looking movie. It's got a lot of great performances, a lot of fun, catchy songs, if you're not already familiar with the ones from Broadway. A good cast. I think everybody's really strong in this. So, I mean, really, you're getting what you think you're getting. If you've seen the trailers and we're like, yeah, I want a fun, summery musical that also has something to say about what it's like to be, you know, like from these groups, whether it's issues with immigration or like just feelings of outsiderness, even in a comfy community that you think that you've been one with your entire life, what it means to feel like you're separated from it. to feel like there's something keeping you from being in that family experience that you want to be, or
and
financial
chasing your
issues,
dreams.
or chasing
a lot of
dreams.
songs about chasing your dreams and
For sure.
how you can feel powerless and not pun intended, but
literally, yes.
literally being powerless is
yes.
one of the songs in there.
It is. And so, yeah, it's what you think it is based on those trailers, anything you've heard. I think it does a fantastic job at being the exact movie that I think that you need at the beginning of like a good summer. It's like the first like good intro to summer movie. It's like, hey, we're here. It's hot. We're having fun. We're singing. We're like, but it also does a pretty good job of being like serious and dramatic at the same time. It's a good mix of things, and it does everything that you expect it to do really, really well.
Mm-hmm. It does have some Hamilton drops in there for people who are obsessed with Hamilton.
Yeah, if you're coming this from the other side, having seen and experienced Hamilton first, I think you'll notice a few of the songs, especially the ones involving our main character, is a very familiar cadence to it.
Syntax.
Yes, it's very much that kind of rapping approach to. It's not all like that, but there are some songs that are very much like that.
Right, and you can see like, oh, this song is kind of like this song from Hamilton, and
yes,
you can see kind of Lin-Manuel Miranda's syntax and kind of how he writes different characters.
Yeah. And there's some Easter eggs in there for Hamilton fans. If you are familiar with that show, you're gonna love when they come up in this movie.
Yep.
So
it's a little something for everybody.
It's fun.
Watch it. Read about watch it.
Yeah, I think it's a recommend. Like I said, probably not for everybody. There's going to be people who are just turned off by its length and how much of a musical it is. It's very much a musical, so prepare for that. Yeah. But if that sounds like a fun summer watch, it's on HBO Max right now or in theaters. So go see it.
HBO Max for 30 days. Otherwise, you have to wait probably till Christmas. I want to say it's going to come back on.
Probably.
Alrighty. Question real quick. Did you hear about the controversy behind In the Heights?
So there was a little bit of a conversation. I didn't bring this up because it kind of was like posed and answered within a day. Right. But there was an article that went up. I forget which outlet put it up, but someone was concerned. Roots. Okay. So it was from a writer who was concerned about the representation of specifically Afro-Latina characters with darker skin. They're basically making an argument that even though they are represented in the real Washington Heights, that they are not represented in the film, that the casting that they went with represented a lot of light-skinned people, and that they thought that betrayed the vision and the message of the show. Since then, Lin-Manuel Miranda went out himself and had a response, admitted that he does agree that they fell short of the representation for that marginalized group, but stated that he always intended the show to be inclusive and intended the show to be a story about what it is to be these people in Washington Heights. So ultimately, I think it was a minor, conversation to be had for a couple days, but ultimately, I think it was a good response. I don't think there was any malice coming from anybody involved in the production. Of course, it's not just Lin-Manuel Miranda. It's also, of course, director, who was the director of
Crazy Rich Asians, John M. Chu.
Yeah, John M. Chu. So like, I don't think it was anybody's necessarily goal to misrepresent, but people have felt that way, and that's reasonable, and they got their opinion out there, and I think that I think the filmmakers did a good job of responding to it. But yeah, I think it's just further proof that people are out there that feel like they're not being represented. They feel like they're being underrepresented by the films that they're watching, even when they're watching something that purportedly is from their stories about their backyard. And I think that while it's very easy to be like, oh, this culture we have right now on the internet, everyone complains about something, find something to complain about every day. I think that maybe in some cases, but I don't think this really falls under that. To me, I think this is an example of the good side, the flip side of that, which is we're at a point now where we have a conversation that's constantly happening where people who never got the chance to say that they felt underrepresented by the media that they engaged in now have the ability to speak out about it. And I think that's ultimately a net positive. I think that's only going to lead to good things down the line, because now the next thing Lin-Manuel Miranda makes, he's going to have this in the back of his head and he's going to think about it. And that's only positive and only good for the stories that we can tell, as people going forward.
Well said. Yeah, agreed. Better than way than I would have put it.
I talked to a friend of the show, Christy, about this yesterday because, of course, she's a huge Lin-Manuel fan. She's a big fan of In the Heights and Hamilton, so it was interesting kind of getting her take on it too. Ultimately, go check it out. I think that it's a good slice of life story about and a fun musical to boot. So go check it out.
Yep. Or check it out in the comfort of your couch with HBO Max.
Yes, indeed.
And with that,
heater.
All right.
Just a heater of a show. We're calling this.
Call it. Cut it.
All right. Thank you for joining us for this extra XXL edition of the Media Boat podcast. But the good news is, I think they'll be shorter from here on out because this was the only big news I think that's happening all this summer. But thank you for joining us for it. We'll be back next week for a shorter regular show. If you want to watch it in video form, you can go to YouTube. You go to youtube.com, search Media Boat Podcast. You can find our page. Like, subscribe, click the bell for notifications for when we put up a new episode. You can also go to the audio version of the podcast through all sorts of podcast services such as Apple Podcasts specifically, Google Play, Amazon, iHeartRadio, where you can listen to us instead of Maroon 5, Spotify even, all sorts of places where you can catch us in audio form as well. You can also visit us on MediaBoatPodcast.com to see updates about every new episode as it goes up every week. I've been posting those on Fridays. You can also see us on social media. On Twitter, we're at MediaBoatCast. On Facebook, we have MediaBoatPodcast.com. Just search that, find our page. I think that more or less does it. If you have questions, comments, please email us at MediaBoatPodcast@gmail.com. Other than that, I believe that's it for next week.
That'll be it for us. We'll be back next week with more thoughts on movies, more thoughts on music, and just more thoughts. Possibly Ratchet & Clank thoughts next week. All right.
Tune in.
We'll be back. All right. Bye.
Goodbye.